Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here, wherever you may find us. On another fine day, it's beautiful here in the Northeast. The sun is out, a few clouds, but the sun is out, even a nice sunny breeze right now. And that sunny breeze is going to go from here to Louisville, Kentucky, where we find this man, the leader of the cult of Cornette. Oh, by the way, I'm the host, the great Brian Last. But here's the star of the show, the leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
You're flabbergasted, Brian. You're bumfuzzled. Your tongue is tied. You're like me. You're so joyous. The previous show we did. I talked about I was cranky. I was grumpy. I was mad and pissed off. I had no electricity. I had to watch bad wrestling. All was bad, but now all is good. The sun is shining. The birds are singing for us and our felon. Because as of just yesterday, not even 24 hours ago, the former despot-in-chief of the United States, President Pigshit himself, was declared guilty. He was convicted on 34 felonies up there in New York. I love New York. I heart New York, as a matter of fact, now, because they have started the ball rolling to what is hopefully the eventual demise of the career and the freedom of the biggest piece of shit that's ever walked the planet Earth. And I couldn't be happier. No, as a matter of fact, I could be happier. And I am, because that did not even make me happy as watching that lying, obnoxious, arrogant, egotistical, ignorant, stupid, carny buffoon came out in the lobby of his disgraced building in front of a bunch of adulation from basically his staff and fucking security people, and gave the most incoherent, rambling, babbling, blithering fucking diatribe, whining and moaning and bitching and complaining. It's all crooked. It's all funny, but what about the immigrants? But this time, Brad, he's so incoherent now. I don't know if he's yet finished a sentence before he branched off into something else, but you can't even understand what he's lying about.
Well, he's always been manic. He's now been convicted on 34 counts. Obviously, that's not going to cause him to be less manic, and it's not going to cause him to lash out less. I mean, the press conference you're speaking, it wasn't a press conference, there were no questions. The speech you're speaking about, he may have violated the gag order against Michael Cohn at a minimum during that. So we'll see what happens. But
he violated everybody's gag reflex. I know that much. And that's, again, he's worse now than he was before because he's older and more frustrated and fucking scared shitless, where his depends are fucking leaking. But anybody that could listen to that fucking ignorant buffoon speak, the lying sack of shit, the drivel. He doesn't know what words mean. And he's not mentally incompetent. He's mentally incontinent. He just shits out statements, regardless of whether they pertain to anything, including facts. And how anybody could want to listen to him, be anywhere in the vicinity of that voice, hear him, look at him for more than 2 minutes and think that he should be in charge of anything except peeling potatoes in the prison fucking kitchen. They're out of their minds. They are beyond help. And the first thing they were doing on Fox News was, well, Joe Biden has done this so that he won't fucking beat him in the election. Joe Biden forced Donald Trump to commit. This is just what he's been convicted of. He did all the other shit that he's currently pending for. And who knows how much other regular old crime he committed as a private citizen running these sham companies and fake charities. So this is not, again, surprising. He's done everything that everybody has seen him and heard him do. But they still, and now the Republican politicians, they won't give him up because they know that the rubes and the suckers and the rest of the base that will vote them out if they say anything bad about this fucking balding flesh bag of fucking ignorance that we are still having to look at. Because 40% of the United States are a bunch of blithering morons that will not, hey, admit it now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry your guy's a piece of shit. I'm sorry he is the criminal that everybody always knew he was. I'm sorry you made horrible mistakes in supporting this fucking guy. I'm sorry he's nearly destroyed American society by making a good portion of you believe the bullshit that comes out of his mouth. But normal, decent people have been offended by his presence, as well as by the fact that he was put in charge once before of normal, decent people. And so you can't expect that if you still cannot get the picture on what he is, what he wants to do, and where we're at with this thing, that you're either a complete simpleton because you believe the worst con man ever, the most see-through motherfucker in history, or you're an asshole because you think that somehow he's got a point. And apparently, we're running neck and neck, Brian, in this country with the number of simpletons and the number of assholes. Because they still think he was sent by God, which is another part of the problem. Because you got a lot of them that they can vote too. These fringe groups. And that's what he's got. But one fringe group that he may have lost at this point is the 5% of people who may, for some reason, still think that the Republicans ought to be in charge, but they have some morality and decency to them and can't bring themselves to vote for this fucking repugnant pig. And especially now with a few convictions, 34 to be exact, maybe that's enough for us to avoid again being embarrassed on the entire world stage and have all of our allies bail on us for the last time because they can't trust us to be a serious goddamn country. Ah!
All right, well, that was the political update here on the show.
But I'm happy because this is the first step. And did you hear he said in Venezuela, they've emptied out the mental institutions and the fucking prisons and sent all those people over here. And now they're doing it in Africa. And
they did that to Long Beach when they emptied all the mental institutions in Manhattan in the 70s. They put everyone on trains on the Long Island Railroad and it took them to the last stop. One of the last stops was Long Beach. So the town was flooded with mental patients for a while.
Well, they may have been nuts, but at least they were our nuts. But explain to me how they how do they under cover of darkness just say, well, we're going to take everybody out of prison in Venezuela and send them all to the United States? But these fucking simpletons believe this drivel. And they say that Joe Biden is somehow, if they can't understand him, he can't string two sentences together. Good God, he sounds like James Earl Jones next to this fucking babbling flesh bag. So again, this is what this is what these people believe. And you cannot shake this delusional behavior. And people have excommunicated friends and family members for it because it's like the pod people. Once you know that it's not really them anymore, that instead it's a goddamn space organism that has taken their place, and you can't trust them because they have this character defect now. We have to band together in November. He's still going to run for president, and they're still going to vote for him. And they haven't even got to the trial of trying to overthrow the government because he was able to put enough judges in place on the Supreme Court and elsewhere that they pumped the brakes on those things, but they couldn't control what Alvin Bragg is that a city situation there in New York?
What is that a city? I thought you had me at, is that a city? No, it's the
Alvin Bragg. He's the
district attorney.
The district attorney, but of the city of New York, correct. Right? Or is it New York? Yeah. So
no, the state of New York is Letitia James.
Well, but see, that's the thing. Trump made the mistake. He didn't put enough fucking crooked judges in place all the way down the line so that somebody could finally fucking get his rotten fucking filthy ass. So anyway, hopefully this is good news, and maybe Mother Nature will take its course on a fucking overweight, goddamn incontinent 78-year-old. So we don't have to worry about him in November anyway. But otherwise, I take a sip of Sprite Zero to the thought of him bending over the goddamn sink in a prison kitchen, potentially peeling potatoes while somebody else packs his fudge.
Well, I don't know how likely prison is. Maybe at the most he'll get an ankle bracelet.
Who else would get that? They say
no one else.
Said, I haven't
no one else, but no one else has the platform to constantly yell that everything is rigged against him, no matter what. He said today in that thing, I wanted to testify. I wanted to in the worst way. He's had nothing but opportunities to testify. He can't testify because he can't tell the truth. He'll say whatever he wants in the moment. And the thing is, a lot of the country don't give a shit about any of the politics, and it just becomes a popularity contest. That's why I think the best thing for everyone...
How can he be popular?
Because the other side sees Joe Biden with the same ineptness minus the corruptness, although now they think there's the corruptness. See, the thing is, where
do they see ineptness from this guy? From Joe Biden, when he finishes a sentence, you understand what he just said.
He's really fucking old too. And quite frankly, I don't think he should be president either. I think we need a whole new slate.
If it hadn't been for Trump, we wouldn't have needed him to come back and save the world.
Well, we'll see how it goes this time. The problem is, has Joe Biden have more people or less people than he did 4 years ago?
I think there's more people that just say, regardless of what the fuck, regardless of goddamn trained chimpanzee or a mental patient, we can't let this fucking disease continue to infect us. The maggots have got to go. We got to find some spray for the maggots because they're eating us up. And like you said, they think they're somehow that these things they believe are facts and correct, and they're normal people. You can't tell them apart.
Well, see, that's the thing. There's people who, in the general scheme of things, just don't give a shit. They just want to live their life and not worry about it. Then there's people who paint their houses red and have flags all over their fucking houses. And, you see some of the people.
That's what yes.
On the press line, you see some of these people waving flags and they look like lunatics, and they probably are. But the rank and file people, truth of the matter is they don't give a shit. They look at how's my life and how is it today versus 4 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. And, depending on which way you lean.
How the fuck do they think we're worse off than we were 4 years ago?
I couldn't tell you.
Stock market's at an all-time high. 4 years ago it was fucking pandemic. Everything was crashing. Unemployment is at an all-time high. I can't find people to come out here and do fucking work I'm willing to pay for. So the point, what the fuck? And the whole thing, the Mexicans are poured across the border. Give me all the Mexicans from Mexico. We'll take them, and we'll send Mexico the fucking Republicans. That way we'll get some work done, and they can go down there and fuck their shit up. How about that? It's fucking ridiculous that we've got an electoral system that means that the minority can rule, especially if they're fanatically motivated because they think that some real estate fraud has been sent by God to do the devil's work. I don't fucking know how.
But that's the thing. He understood he could win because he knew from all of his things he had done throughout the country over the many years, he had fooled enough people into thinking he was a billionaire. When he wasn't. He fooled Forbes magazine in the 80s. That came out about his net worth. When he was worth like a couple million, I think he said he was worth $1 billion. And they printed it. They put him on like their Forbes 500 list. And there's a lot of people that bought into that act. So when he says stuff, they still believe him, not realizing his very essence is fake. He's a guy from fucking Jamaica Estates, Queens, who decided to sell to the press and sell to people that he was a major developer when he had a couple buildings. And it was his dad's company and his dad's money. And he bombed in Atlantic City with casinos. Give me a casino. Watch me rake in the fucking dough. He had multiple casinos and they all went bust. Like, it's one thing after another, but he was able to sell himself as being successful. And a lot of the ways he sold himself are the reasons he got a lot of doors open to him, especially with financial institutions. And there's people who still buy into that. It's all about a sales pitch. And he doesn't break. He doesn't break kayfabe. He never breaks kayfabe. Everything is rigged. Anything that happens against him is rigged. From the moment it looks like something's going to happen, he starts saying things. He starts repeating it. He has his catchphrases over and over. Before you know it, the whole crowd standing up and saying along with The Rock, "Do you smell?" That's what happens. It's professional wrestling. And I think that's a lot of his support. It's not just the people that are like rabid and crazy, Well,
no. The thing is, yes, that it's not just people rabid and crazy in one way. His business experience has led him to identify every fucking group and kind and genre of stupid, gullible, or fanatical people. And he calculated that if he got all of them, that he could fucking win the Electoral College, and it worked out that way once, and we can't let it happen again. The religious fanatics think he was sent by God. The fucking Second Amendment fucking militia fucks think that he's the only one that's going to not take their guns.
He's looking like Sumner Redstone. They got him on this press conference on TV right now in the background on CNN.
He's melting.
He's looking like Sumner Red. The hair is getting redder. He's more like hunched over.
And this is the thing that they are going to hold up as being the leader of the free world. And as I said, all of the fringe groups think that he somehow represents, because he has no ideals of his own and he has no interests of his own other than self. So he's willing to go along with all this other batshit stuff that the Marjorie Treason Greens stand for. That's what Mitch McConnell was holding his nose the whole time he was there before, and then came out and blamed him for January 6th because it was his fault. And then realized, oh shit, our suckers are still in his fucking pocket. And they're all afraid they're going to get voted out. Good. Get voted out in mass and take a stand for the good of the world, you fucking spineless pricks. Anyway, that's why
he went after McConnell's wife.
Him.
He went after McConnell's wife, too.
Yes. He went after everybody. He probably fucking had sex with Ted Cruz's wife. Since Ted probably doesn't do it often.
He called Ted Cruz's wife a dog.
Yes.
With a smile on his
and we
face.
know Trump's into bestiality, so there you go. It fits.
We don't know that for the record legally, but he called her a dog, and then Ted Cruz came out and said, "You better not say that about my wife." And then now Ted Cruz is one of his biggest supporters out there saying anything that needs to be said on his behalf. So it's performance art. Everyone knows they have to get in line and, get behind the Brando of fucking dirtbag political arts, which is Trump. He's the Brando of that. I mean, he's like the all-time greatest. And
no one, go ahead.
Everyone else is terribly afraid of him. But the interesting thing is, the person who put up the biggest fight the longest most recently was Nikki Haley, and she dropped out. Yet there's still in like multiple states, whenever they do the primary voting for the Republicans, I want to say it's like 20% at minimum, who are voting for either Nikki Haley, even though she's out, or like none of the above. So that's interesting too. That means he hasn't been able to lock up a lot of the people in that party that got fed up with all the bullshit. That's the other thing. Even if you think he's not as bad as everyone else does, I think there's a lot of people who are tired by the constant drama. It was daily. I mean, it was hourly. It was nonstop. And I mean, it was an industry of books and everything else on every side. It was nonstop, and it'll be that again. And he's older, and he's fucking shitting his pants. I mean, it's just going to be a disaster.
Well, yeah, and he's mad at everybody. He's not going to be the president.
Who's he going to hire? Who's he going to hire?
Nobody wants to work. Who would want to go through that and then be turned on and then potentially be hauled into court? And who would the vice president be? Because that worked out well for the last one. He was leaving him to be hanged.
So you see, no one wanted to fight it. Everyone tried to pussyfoot around it. And no one, Chris Christie was the only one who came out and actually tried to put up a fight, but, you know, too little too late for Chris Christie at this point. And no one else fought him. Mike Pence. This was the moment for Mike Pence to show, you know what? My balls are not in my wife's purse. They're right here in my purse. Now, it was his moment to stand up and say something. He fucking couldn't get the balls to really hit him hard. Nikki Haley almost did. She wouldn't. No one else would. Everyone's still afraid of the guy. But maybe it's a New York thing. You got to fight harder, and you got to fight a lot harder. And
well, but everybody else is a normal human being that's trying to stick to actual facts and coherent statements. And
that Kristi Noem wanted to be vice president. He can just make up anything. She wanted to be vice president, so she put a story to impress who? I don't know, in her book where she shot a dog?
Yes.
She killed her family dog?
And in the process, hopefully killed her political career. A fucking nutcase like that. But is that, again, the Republicans? Oh, she shot the dog. Yay. What's the matter with these fucking mentally delusional fuckwits?
I actually think she lost Republicans on that, because that was like a step too. Even they were like, what the fuck? And the latest news from her, she was banned from all tribal grounds in North Dakota or wherever she's the governor of.
Good.
But that's the political update.
Yeah, well, anyway, point being, I think, and I will summarize this and close, even if it's just 5 or 6% who are just, again, for whatever reason, they want to vote for Republicans after all of this over the last 8 years, but they can't vote for this thing, this piece of shit, this piece of human excrement that you should wipe off from your foot and then fucking spray with bleach to make sure it doesn't infect the goddamn neighborhood. So they don't want to vote for him, so they'll either stay home or they will do something for humanity and use their vote in a responsible way and vote for Biden just to get us past this. And then we probably won't have to worry about either one of them in 4 years, hopefully. And we can hopefully potentially move on fresh where people have learned what happens when the fringe groups in a country take over a goddamn major political party. And, you know, it's never worked out well in the history of the past.
Yeah, the problem are the political parties. That's what should fucking go. That's exactly what should fucking go. That's the problem with the whole fucking system.
Well, good luck. We can't even get rid of the Electoral College. You're going to try to abolish everything.
No, that's the problem. If you are a Democrat or a Republican, you can get on a fucking ballot. But if you wanted to run, and, you know, you see all sorts of crazy fucking parties, especially up here. At one point, it was like, you know, the rent is too damn high party and all sorts of shit.
It was the rent is too damn high.
What was that guy's name? Oh, what was his name? Fuck, I don't remember.
Golly, Rent Man.
You want to talk about a crazy political moment in New York, because it was on local TV. They had the mayor. No, it wasn't mayor. It was the debate for governor. And anyone who, seemingly anyone qualified for this debate, because it was Andrew Cuomo. This is before he won the first time. And like a slew of like B-team celebrities and just random politicians from like the outer boroughs, just everything. And it was such a shit show. And Andrew Cuomo did such a good job of putting up with this. It was hysterical, but the rent is too damn high. The point is, you have an advantage if you're part of a political party in that political system, but that's the thing that needs to go away for anything really truly to be done. And it won't be, and I acknowledge that. I'm talking as an optimist for a future that will never exist. But the idea of people being able to say, hey, look, here's what I stand for. I'm not someone who really stands in a group. If you want me to help and you want me to lead and you want me to actually do my job, I'm more than happy to do that. But I'm not going to play the games. And also, I'm not attending any of your fucking parades. I just want to work. Are you hiring me to work or do press events? Well, we'll see what happens. Vote for me.
Well, let me know how your fucking candidacy goes. Anyway, boy, you're in your middle of age, or your middle age, midlife, or whatever you are. You're younger than I am.
The middle ages of my life.
I'm past 60, and I'm not going to have another 4 years, hopefully, of my life to have to be fucking embarrassed and ashamed for my fellow man in my country that we are fucking idiots on a national or worldwide stage, and I'm not going to be fucking holding my buttocks tightly, clenching my ass cheeks to make sure I don't shit myself over whatever he manages to fuck up next. So by cracky, there are still, I think it's 51 to 49 more decent, rational people in this country than not, and we just need to make sure that the proper half turns up in November.
Well, I'm going to do one of these because we have to see how much of that can make YouTube. But if you're hearing this, Happy Talk is starting again in some way. I don't know what we really have to talk about that's so happy.
Well, I'm not really happy about anything else but what we just talked about. But what you're saying is if people are listening to this show in its entirety on YouTube because we were too brutally honest about what we thought about the current political climate and some of the people still supporting it, that we might not be playing that there.
Yeah, there may be an issue, so we have to see.
So people should listen to the podcast in its entirety where it's unedited and our freedom of speech is protected. That's what you're saying.
Well, no matter what, they should listen to the podcast. They should download the podcast. Always remember that what you hear on YouTube may not be exactly what you hear on the podcast. And the podcast,
there's more.
And the podcast is unedited. Sometimes on YouTube,
yes,
you may hear some bleeps and all sorts of things.
Bells and whistles. See, sometimes you hear one of those. Every once in a while you hear one of those. Oh, good Lord, now I can't hear it all.
All right, we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to Dynamite shortly. Because let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, I'd like to get some Dynamite so I can blow my brains out.
Oh,
having watched that show. Oh, God damn it.
Oh, stop it. It's not as bad as it was the previous 2 weeks.
No. When was it ever this bad? Come on.
Well, they're on a streak. Look. Whatever you want to say about Tony Khan, there's a consistency in the bad booking.
I don't know I don't even believe that's true. Consistency would indicate that it was hovering around at the same level. I think he's decided that the answer to his problems that he has and people taking him to task for those problems is to do twice as much of the stupid shit he's doing, the reason why they're taking him to task to begin with.
I guess you have to ask yourself before we get to the actual review, looking at the state of AEW. And we've all noticed the ratings lately, and yes, the NBA have had playoffs. And we've all noticed the crowds lately, and yes, they've had some nice crowds for a couple of the bigger shows. They sold out for Sting's retirement, and they just had people for the pay-per-view. And I think one of the Canada shows did well. But AEW right now doesn't have a lot of stuff to really hang your hat on, a lot of good stuff. At least to a lot of us who've been watching since the beginning. And nothing.
Phrase that, because the good stuff is subjective, but a lot of main event money drawing issues amongst their top talent.
I guess my question is, what metric needs to drop for Tony Khan to realize that maybe we're not doing everything great? Because everything you hear from him publicly, and again, that's just what he wants to put out there, everything is great. We've had the best run of shows. We had the greatest event tonight. Everything is great. But nothing ever changes. You know, it's one thing saying that, but you're making improvements. They've made some hires, but there's still the same problems with the TV. You can hire everyone you want. If your popularity goes down, what are they going to be selling? Too little too late when it comes to hiring the right office people.
Well, yeah, when they have hired people to supposedly take charge of departments and nothing changes, what is the problem with that?
So when it comes specifically to the booking, Tony publicly thinks everything's okay. He sees everyone up to Dave Meltzer now making comments about the booking. That's kind of the last domino to fall. We've all been explicit about Tony's booking. Dave's been kind about it. He can't even hide it too much anymore. At what point do you recognize, I need to make a change? And if these things don't make you make a change, and the ratings don't make you make a change, what will?
You know, as you went through that entire very long speech with numerous sub-references, but still the point is, I think that the only thing that would get Tony to panic and or publicly or change something is not even Uncle Dave question his booking, but if everybody started saying, oh, these matches suck, if he didn't have his dedicated audience to somehow say that Plummer Moxley versus Ishii was 5.25 stars, and this is the best in-ring wrestling we've ever seen, that may be the only thing that could potentially shake, because it seems like that's the only thing he cares about. As long as all those people are saying that, he ignores the fact that that audience is ever dwindling, and it's got a cap on it, always has to begin with, and that everything else about the company looks like the goddamn Mickey Mouse Club next to, over here you've got the WWE's its own fucking network at this point. So and he's just doubling up, doing more shit. Everybody has a video that interrupts the promo so they can jump from behind, and everybody gets set on fire and impaled and carted off and run over with bread trucks, and everybody turns on everybody, and the factions get bigger, and the managers of the baby faces are the heels at the same time. In every goddamn segment. Am I imagining this, or are we, especially with that pay-per-view, but over the last 2 or 3 weeks, all these things happen all the fucking time.
Yeah. I mean, since the beginning of AEW, too, we've seen things happen on that show, and almost the exact same thing will happen with other wrestlers later in the same show. There's always been issues with the formatting, whether vertical or horizontal, with the AEW Dynamite TV show.
I think it's a bit diagonal at this point.
Again, I always say that there have been a lot of people who know better, who have been way too kind about things. When the argument is always, Tony needs people around him to help him, that's lying. The truth is, Tony can't book. And that's what needs to be said. Tony can't book. Can Tony be a matchmaker for dream matches that would be on the compilation tape of his dreams? Oh yeah. But he can't book a wrestling TV show. He's not good at it. And more people need to be open and say it, because that's the only chance we have of him being shamed into doing anything about it, because he wants to do it. This whole project exists for him to do it, and people are pretending that he can do it when they know he can't.
And when they generously say, well, he needs people around him that can help him, who is he letting help him? Because, goddamn, there are people that have been in the business for 2 years, a year possibly, would be more advanced in certain aspects than what we're seeing, but he only listens to the people that think the same way he thinks, which is why you've got...
That's why the same things keep happening over and over again.
Yeah, EVPs with thumbtacks on their fucking tennis shoes. That's...
Well, that sets us up for AEW Dynamite, which took place this past week from a locale...
the Forum!
The Forum! The fabulous Forum!
May 29th, the Forum in Los Angeles, California. I have been there. I've been in that building, and it's a big building, but it didn't seem like there were a lot of lights on in that building. It was very dark. I don't know if we have an idea of how many people were there for the live event.
Magic, Kareem, Kobe, Tony. Fabulous Forum. How does it sound?
I don't know. I think maybe that'll cause Tony to buy a basketball team. He can fuck that business up. Anyway, so they had about 1,000 balloons in the ring because they were going to celebrate the ascension of their CEO as the new whatever. And basically, we're going to call this episode of AEW TV. I couldn't care less because after that pay-per-view, I couldn't care less if I was seeing this shit ever again or not, right? But out of my duty to the listening public, I'm going to try to see how much I can fucking take. So here comes Mercedes Moon. And she does the stripper dance, but now she got the belt. So she points at it a lot instead of holding up her fucking hands with the fucking rings. And as I mentioned, about 1,000 balloons. But boy, when she got there was a lot of hot air in the ring. I'll tell you that. And they did, at least these people were willing to work with her, give her a little CEO chant that wasn't, they played the piped in version, but then the people gave her a bit of one as well. And she gave in what, again, is my opinion, is a not genuine beauty pageant speech. It's like and now let's hear from Miss Rhode Island. And, I'd like to thank all the people, the little people, whatever the fuck. She's so fake, and it's obviously prepared or written or acted or however you want to phrase it. And every time that the people in the building do react a little bit, she starts doing the little fucking shimmy. The Moni shimmy. It looks like somebody needs to dive into the ring and stick a dollar bill in her garter belt. What? Is that where she gathers her thoughts, like to figure out what line is next, or what's going on there with that fucking dancing in the middle of the promo?
I mean, it's part of her character, but I also think it seems to be some sort of crutch too. She may not be that comfortable out there doing things like this on the mic. She's more comfortable working a match than speaking as her character. Or if that's not the case, she's just not good at it because, like you said, she comes across like she's putting on a show, and that really doesn't work.
But anyway, the video on the screen, fortunately, interrupts her, and there it's Blue Sky on the video screen, who reveals that she's the one that jumped Mercedes Monet in the dark a few weeks ago.
That we all forgot about. That was like a month ago.
We all forgot about it. It was like the second. Well, I remember making fun of it when it happened because it was like she's been there 2 weeks and they just turned the lights off at a fucking locker room pre-tape and somebody beat shit out of her. She has no idea who, right? What a fucking moron. But apparently it was her. It was Blue Sky. And as soon as she says that, then of course Blue Sky is in the ring. How many times have we seen this lately from both companies? That you'll see some son of a bitch on the screen and then they jump the guy in the ring from behind right after they go off the screen. What, did they just figure out they can do it technically and now they can't stop?
This was a Raw segment from several years ago. The whole thing of using the Tron like that, even WWE's kind of getting past that.
Well, in WWE, fairness to them, a lot of times these days they have people in the way of the Tron. They can't have the Tron, you can see, because they got all the people. All the people. And then here came, as I mentioned, Blue Sky into the ring, and she hit a big move on Mercedes and walked off, and the camera's following Blue Sky, backing up to, so you can see her ha-ha about the whole thing and gloat. And then the camera goes to the ring, and there's Mercedes Moon rubbing a knot on her head and looking up there to, why did you do this to me? And it goes on, and Here's just a rule of thumb for the people who like to know about the actual wrestling business instead of whatever fucking high school drama they're putting on over there. If the babyface gets attacked by a heel, and when that heel is leaving, the babyface is still conscious and not being restrained, if he ain't chasing that motherfucker, he's just a big fucking pussy. Well, I guess I shouldn't have put the analysis on that.
This is the women's division, Jim.
This is the women's division. All right, she just a coward.
Dick.
She's a limp dick. She's a limp dick. That's what she is. Well, the baby face. You got to lay the baby face out, and then when the save comes, the cavalry comes, you got to get the fuck out of there and laugh while over your shoulder, and point a couple times, but you're moving while that baby face is down. Or if the baby face comes up, there's somebody to restrain. Oh no, you don't want to do this again, and they can be restrained. But no, what the fuck was, as Bill Watts would say, what did an invisible wall suddenly rise up out of the floor when the baby faces hit the ring to make a big save? The heels bail out and stop on the floor and try to fucking jaw with the people. Chase them and kick the shit out of them. If they goddamn ain't any more scared of you than that to get the fuck out of there, you're leaving the scene of a crime. You have committed a crime, and now you are trying to get away with it without any repercussions. And that's what a heel does. And not, God. Anyway.
Who cares what Bill Watts would say? I want to know what Alexandra Pepperday would say.
Well, apparently Alexandra Pepperday says everything that Mercedes Moan says, because I guess she writes, when Mercedes gets a phone call, she has to look at old Alexandra Pepperday to find out whether she's supposed to say what, hello, or blow me, or kiss my ass, or what.
And the CEO chants, I mean, obviously there are some people that like her, and at various times you do hear them, but you don't hear them as loud as you do when they blast them into the music, and when that cuts off, it dies right away. Again, I'm not saying there aren't chants at different points, but they're not that loud and vociferous. So then when it goes away, all of a sudden it's like, man, no one's breathing. What happened?
Well, what happened is they sucked all the oxygen out of the building.
Now, this is not the go-home show, the comeback show after the pay-per-view.
The follow-up, if you will, show.
They didn't start with anything from Anarchy in the Arena. They didn't start with the MJF, or with MJF on the show at all, but talking about his return. They started with Mercedes Moné. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm willing to be proven wrong. I so seldom am that I'm not experienced at it, but I'm willing. I don't see, unless it's just that they've dropped down to a number that anything would improve, I don't see how Mercedes Moné, in the way she's been presented and from what I've seen of her, is going to be a significant ratings boost to this company for any measurable time. Maybe there might be, well, I mean, we won't be able to tell here. It's the first segment. That's always the highest rated, so kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, maybe later on with the fucking match, let's see if anybody came back for it. But from any type of long-term basis, you've got MJF, and I don't know who, and Osprey, and they've cooled everybody else off, and they've seen everybody else to death, and our friendo Cody means nothing because he's in the middle of the reason why a lot of people ain't watching anymore to begin with. So I don't know why they're, let's start with the celebration for the new women's champion. Or what is that what title did she win? Is that the TBS title or the women's title? And Toni Storm's the women's champion.
Yeah, she won the TBS championship, I believe.
Okay, well, see? We see this shit every week.
Did you hear Tony said at the press scrum after the pay-per-view that he wants to introduce a mixed tag team championship?
Of course he does. I think there ought to be a goddamn an interspecies tag team title where let one of the wrestlers bring his dog and the other wrestler bring his dog and they have a goddamn a mixed interspecies tag team match. And you can't really pin a dog necessarily. Well, I guess you could. But maybe the dog just has to fucking tap out. Harley's good at tapping with her front paws when she wants to go poopy.
Should any of the wrestlers who don't have belts sue for the exclusion?
Can we find any that don't have belts?
I'm sure there's some.
I bet you whoever right now doesn't have a belt that they're allowed to carry out on TV, I bet you every single one of them have their own belt that they bought at home. At least one of them.
Well, that was the first segment.
Yeah, it was. So they did some packages on the pay-per-view, and we've already talked about what we thought of that. Swerve and Nana back together again, do their entrance, and Swerve, I don't know about him anymore, but Nana, I think, is having the time of his life. He's dancing and doing all of his stuff. I mean, it just... Here's another thing they could have done since they fell into this, because obviously it wasn't the plan when Swerve was a top heel and Nana's been a lifelong heel manager and they were put together, but then they invaded babies' cribs and people's homes and did all these horrible things. They didn't know they were going to turn babyface doing that. But when they did, they've had an opportunity with Nana that they've missed, because since the people like him because of his dance, and they like him because he has the facials, and his look complements Swerve with the fucking, even if we didn't know what the whole embassy thing was never fleshed out past just a name of a group. At this point, Nana shouldn't be, his gimmick in Ring of Honor, the rich, man from, oh God, what country is he from? What country was Prince Nana from in Ring of Honor?
Oh, this is you're the champion.
Tunisia. I don't fucking know. The point is, he was supposed to be a rich prince from another country, but no, now
Queen.
Say that. There you go. Let Nana be kind of like Eddie Murphy in fucking Coming to America, where he can still use the voice, but at the same time, flesh him out a little bit. As a human being, make him more credible as a manager and more human as a person. Talk about how long he's been in the wrestling industry, and mostly in smaller leagues, lower level, but he's always stuck with it. The number of names that he's been involved with in his career, they got the shot, and now he's been able to establish himself on national TV and leading the AEW World Champion. You could make him not only more important as a manager, but human as a personality, so that they would like it when even more when he does something positive or says whose house. But you can also, when somebody beats him up, it's not just, oh, that fucking stooge guy that is always around, the flunky guy got knocked over. It's, oh, Nana. It's more personal with the fans. And they don't do any of this for any. The only time that the human beings here are fleshed out is when they're pretending to be people that they're not. Like the Buckaroos. So, you could do something with Nana here, but they're not doing anything with fucking Swerve. So why am I going on here? I just slapped myself in the face.
Well, don't do that. That doesn't help anyone.
Well, it feels good when I quit, as Mama Cornette used to say.
Well, what did Swerve and Nana do?
Well, Swerve and Nana wrestled Dino Douche is what they did. And I say, you know what? After that pay-per-view, I had a bad taste in my mouth. It tasted like a sand hog had just pulled his foot out of my mouth. And I said, Dino Douche hadn't had a good match in 5 years, and I don't think he's going to start tonight, so I'm heading toward the finish. And here was the finish. And they did some dipsy-doos and things and such, as these kids are wont to do, but finally Swerve ducked a big clothesline, went behind the fucking Lizard, and hit him with a big German suplex, boom, and then jumped up and hit him with his fucking kick in the head, right? Boom, and then went to the top and hit him with a double stomp finish that he does off the top rope, boom, and I thought, okay, and the people are kind of with it, and he covers him at 1, 2, and I'm thinking, and he got threat. No! He kicked out. I'd already written 1, 2, 3, and well, what the fuck? It was there. Jesus Christ, it was there. And
that's every Swerve match, unfortunately. We've seen a lot of long competitive matches where they should have ended earlier, not just because they should have, but because there was a moment, there were clear moments where that was the finish, and they kept going.
Well, but here's how they kept going. Here's how they kept going. Swerve gets up and runs over, kicks him in the head again, and then covers him 1, 2, 3. And yes, they popped because he won, but now they expected it. And they counted with, and a lot of times you'll hear crowds will count with it because it's there on a Shawn Michaels type of thing when he dipped and dodged and finally hit the super kick, whatever, boom, 1, 2, 3, you know. They wanted to know. They wanted to know a minute ago. But the pop was half what it would have been. He was in a flow. He had the flow, and the phrase when it was there is what always it doesn't mean as much as it should to the modern audience or to the folks who may not have been in wrestling locker rooms for 20 years. But that was what guys used to say. Oh, it was there when they talked about how they fucking lost people or fucked up or somebody else had, more like, when they'd tell stories about other people fucking up and losing them. It was there. And then it would be followed by, and then the fucking idiot, whatever. That's what bookers would say for your main event guys, get it right. That's the other side of it was there. It doesn't matter sometimes if they had called a finish, if they were fairly well close to it and they hit something that just was going to tear the fucking house down, the guy that was going to do the job would just say, take it. And they do that because it was there. And so here's what happened. And I wrote, he's your world champion, you morons. And yes, the Lizard has been on TV for 5 years and has sucked for the majority, if not entirety of that time. We know this. But he's a big, impressive fucker. Okay, yes. Have the world champion beat him in somewhat of a competitive match, but having a mid-card stooge guy in a fucking heel group kick out of the new world champion's finishes. How many times did fucking, Bradshaw, when he was in the APA, kick out of the Stone Cold Stunner? See where I'm going with this?
It's the era of everyone kicking out of everything and working towards the biggest pop you can.
They were only going to do one more move. They worked toward a smaller pop. They were going to do one more move. It wasn't like they were going to go 5 more minutes and the same guy was going to win. It just would. He had the flow. He had it. You have to feel it. Ric Flair, if it would have said if it had been Steamboat come down on him with the double stomp, he would have laid there and said, that's it. Because you would have felt it. And instead, he kicked out, and then he jumped up, and he kicked him in the head, and boom. Okay. And then they cut one of the Lizard's braids off of his head, or mask, or something, whatever it was attached to. Because now they're starting to steal hair and teeth and body. Maybe some kind of voodoo ring. What do you think, Brian, going on? They're stealing personal items, potential DNA samples.
Well, they just did it to Swerve, where they took his piece of his hair a few weeks ago, but I was hoping this whole thing with Christian ended at the pay-per-view. And now he is wrestling Killswitch and stealing things from him. So I guess this is going to continue.
Well, yeah, it's going backwards like normal. They start with, okay, it's going to be Swerve and Christian, and now he's going to wrestle all the Stooges. Moving along.
Well,
would you like to move along?
Well, what I was going to say is, not.
Oh, you were. I thought you were, but I didn't know for sure.
Well, you never know until you know, and now you know. And what I was going to say is, I wonder if you know a little tidbit. Prince Nana, when he comes out on the stage and he's dancing, he's not dancing to that awful Swerve theme music.
He's not?
No! In his ear, he's listening to Motown on his Raycon.
That's why he's got such incredible rhythm, because he's listening to the sounds of the Supremes or the greats of Motown, the Berry Gordy influenced sound that keeps everybody's toes a-tapping and fingers a-snapping. Well, that makes perfect sense, because that other stuff, boy, it sounds like somebody's disemboweling a cat. But anyway, folks, if you don't want to hear sounds such as that, but you'd like to hear your own sounds, your own soundtrack to your life, the Raycon wireless earbud, the everyday earbuds, have been upgraded, where they're not just your everyday earbuds anymore. Because now you're going to get a variety of new features. As a matter of fact, if you have ordered the earbuds in the past and they last forever, so I'm sure you're still enjoying them, unless you've been negligent and lost them somewhere, possibly in someone's vaginal cavity or whatever the case.
I don't think that should be the case that you went to here. I don't even understand why it would be.
Well, a lot of people lose friendship rings in places like that, but I'll tell you this.
Possibly.
The new functions.
Yeah, the new ones.
The new functions, now you got to buy another set all over again. They're so inexpensive. They're such a great value that you got, because now all the new stuff, you've got active ergonomic design. And we've always been talking about the ergonomic stuff. It's where it's ergonomic, so it fits, and you can grip it without hurting yourself, or you can slide it or insert it without penetrating anything that has to be repaired surgically, or whatever. Every day you're sitting in a chair that's ergonomic. So it's more comfortable. So we got ergonomic design going for us. Fits the widest range of ears, I understand. And even I've told you about Hotchkiss Featherbottom, his situation with his ears. One ear canal is about 3 times the diameter of the other. And so he's used to having to kind of buy adapters and things. When Radio Shack went out of business, he stopped listening to music on headphones. But anyway.
Oh, come on.
It's got multi-point connectivity.
Radio Shack?
No, the Raycon upgraded everyday earbuds with multi-point connectivity. You can pair 2 devices at once. You plug one right into the other one, and then they don't even need you. And it's got new active noise cancellation. Now, it had noise cancellation before, but now it's active noise cancellation. That means that it's just canceling noise whether you ask it to or not. It just automatically, if your wife is speaking to you, it's going to blank her right to fuck out. And it's now weatherproof and or sweat resistant, depending on the model in which you choose to purchase. But the point is that they were already great. They were already, as a matter of fact, you know how great they were. I'll tell you how good. They were great. But now they're even greater, because they've got all these upgraded features. And if you go to buyraycon.com, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE, you're going to get 15% off your Raycon order and free shipping. 15% off and free shipping, Brian. That means that you're getting these new upgraded everyday earbuds with all of these various features for less than what you would have paid normally for the old unupgraded everyday earbuds that weren't ergonomic and wouldn't hit the G-spot into your ear.
again, there's elements of what you are saying that is absolutely true. There are elements that are metaphysically incorrect. But ladies and gentlemen, Raycon, a fine, great earbud.
Yes.
The one for you. Get it today. Jim, tell them all about how they can do just that.
That's right. This bud's for you, ladies and gentlemen. The everyday earbuds, the upgraded kind. From Raycon, go to buyraycon.com/JCE and get 15% off and free shipping. And that's not just 15% off wave. You get 5 sets of earbuds. You get 15% off of the whole thing. So, you know, you ought to be able to figure, if you buy about 100 of these things, I bet they'd owe you money. Try it and find out. What are you going to lose from just trying it? Buy 100 sets.
Don't do that. Be reasonable and buy what you need and only what you need. Don't do anything crazy now.
Well, it wouldn't be crazy if it was a business investment to see what would happen, because I would think if you get 15% off of everything, but you order more, you get a bigger discount. Sooner or later, they'd owe you money. If you just try it out with only 100 pair and see what happens, and then go for the big numbers. 15% off, free shipping, buyraycon.com/JCE. You know, it'd only take one son of a gun to buy 100 of those for us to look real good today.
Well, make sure you say where you heard it, and of course, use the promo code JCE.
But they don't really have to say where they heard it if they're using that promo code. Where else would they have heard it?
Every little bit helps. Oh, excuse me, ma'am. Jim and Brian. Oh, you don't know who they are? Let me tell you. Oh, you never know.
Yeah, no, if you find somebody that doesn't know who we are, then you better smarten them up. You know, listen here, motherfuckers. These two are the smartest son of a bitches on the goddamn interwebs.
Because we use Raycon. Because we use Raycon. That's where our intelligence comes from.
Yes, and, well, no, it doesn't come. I'm older than Raycon. My intelligence came from a time of black and white television, I'll have you know.
You're an old school con.
That's right, and I'm gonna stay that way until I get paroled out of this bit.
Somehow we will right now with Raycon. Back to Dynamite.
Oh, where were we? Did I turn my page? Moxley droned on from a stairwell lit in an attractive fashion, very romantic and with colors and etc. And Rocky Romero from IWGP has an eliminator match with me and OG. And then we got the debut of the newest interview segment, Piper's Pit ripoff, bad 2010s WWE well, I can't even say bad then because they still got the Grayson Waller effect, but the interview set with the interview show with the interview guy, the TV, how many titles this thing have? TV time with the learning tree, Chris Jericho. Have I got that correct?
He's so fucking stupid. He is so fucking stupid. And lame. This was lame. This was so bad. What was the...
Poor Big Bill.
You would think him leaning into the criticism he got wouldn't make everything even worse. It just keeps getting worse. Everything he does is awful.
Well, they had the giant cardboard cutout of a tree in the ring and a little podium, and poor Big Bill has to be out there as his flunky and introduce him so he can come out, and then he gets to put Jericho over more once he gets in the ring, and now they've got Big Bill being cheesy.
And it's the same thing every other Jericho flunky has to do, put him over on the mic. How many times have we seen that?
But he's not doing it in a way where you can tell that he's being forced to do it. He's doing it in a real fake way, but like he's fitting with the rest of the shit where you think, okay, this is what he's supposed to mean. I don't know. But it's ingeniously disingenuous. But I mean, he's even doing a thing, Jericho, where he teased throwing out a free T-shirt and then just put it on the turnbuckle.
That was the best part of the whole thing.
And this is kind of the way that they were still getting heat on the heel in the bad WWE segments from 10 years ago when Vince started losing his mind and relying more and more on the writers, right? Because I wasn't really watching a lot of it then, but it seems like it's what reminiscent of. And he's like the oldest Buckaroo brother. There's Matt, there's Nick, and there's Chris, in that he's doing the same kind of thing and the same kind of interview. And being for real fake at the same time. I don't know. And then Jericho introduced Brian Keith. I know people are saying, who? Who? He's the guy that was basically the hit guy that came out and interfered at the pay-per-view.
Bounty Hunter.
Bounty Hunter, thank you. Bounty Hunter Brian Keith. And he comes out dressed like he's some kind of, it was like a fucking spaghetti western from the late 60s. And he's Lee Van Cleef with the fucking sombrero or whatever and the poncho. He's an Old West cowboy badass, and he's 5'6" tall. Jericho is 5'10" and is towering over the top of this guy. And when he did his promo, he sounded and looked like the mayor of Munchkinland with a sore throat. It was like he's trying to bow up, and I don't know. And the fans are chanting, "Shut the fuck up." And then Brian Keith puts Jericho over as the greatest of all time. And then Jericho welcomes him to the Jericho Vortex. And as they're hugging, suddenly here Hook's music, and here comes Hook and beats up some security guards in the aisleway, doesn't get to the ring, but then Samoa Joe comes out and gets face to face with Hook and whispers something to him, and Hook walks off with Samoa Joe. And then it was just an awkward, and Jericho's going, "Well, thank you, everybody." And I don't know if they had it planned out. I think he was just vamping at that point, like we were just standing here. What'd you think of the rest of this?
It's terrible. It's counterproductive for where AEW needs to be direction-wise. Jericho's trying to hang on, as he always has, desperately. He was able to lean into the whole AEW ethos for a long time of, everyone who's there should be listened to and everyone should do their thing and the young guys know what they're doing, while he was politically doing his thing behind the scenes. And now he always falls back to the shit or the kind of shit he used to do in WWF. Like they used to say, like a booker, when their creativity ended, but they still got booking jobs, they would just kind of redo everything they used to do.
Yeah.
That's where Jericho is right now. He's doing the kind of stuff he used to do on Raw. And now it's just an old Chris Jericho doing bad material. Give Big Bill credit. He's leaning into this and trying his hardest, but we just saw him behaving completely differently a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and was doing well and started to impress even me.
And again, too, the Young Bucks, their whole thing with their character right now is to be disingenuous. How does it help that to have another guy doing the exact same thing on the same show? Right, when they come out and they wave and they pretend like they're doing stuff on behalf of the people. That's everything Chris Jericho's doing right now.
Everything. Not just that, but everything is done repeatedly over and over on this show by different people. Every move or every piece of furniture that's broken. Can somebody, instead of the tables, can't we get a credenza? A chifforobe? An armoire? What about, is there no variety in furniture? It's always got to be a table? For heaven's sake, what?
Can't Fozzy book a big fucking Russian tour or something for months at a time? Just someplace far away where he can't get back to Dynamite on Wednesday. Awful. Ricky Starks off TV. He's actually over. The guy he was teaming with is now doing this. It's a joke. The hell's
Where's
happening?
Action Andretti? Have we filed a report with the FBI yet on that rising superstar that
Well,
Jericho put over?
I think the rumor is he may be in witness protection, or as we commonly call it, Ring of Honor.
Oh, poor fella. Well, at least his mother had fond thoughts of him.
Jericho made him.
So what made me skip the next match was the plumber was in it. He was wrestling Rocky Romero, who's a good talent and another guy brought in to feed the ego of Moxley and let him pretend to be a badass. And we all know that because he's almost never on TV. And when he does come to TV, somebody beats him. And guess what? Plumber beat him. I didn't watch it. I couldn't take Moxley. I was sour on life at this point.
It's everything you think it would be. It's every trading.
You did think it would be? Is it everything I think it would be?
It's everything you think it would be. They traded the blows, a back and a forth.
They're going a bing and a bing and a bing and
a bing a bang a boom.
A boom, make a bing a bang a fucking boom.
They trade the blows, a back and forth, and it's everything you think it would be. And Rocky Romero's never on this show, so why are you going to care? And why does no one would think he was going to win? So again, you're doing a long competitive squash match. And how many long competitive squash matches can you have?
Apparently many of them, because we keep saying this over and over. And there was a brief, now we got a tease going on here, a brief shot of Hook and Samoa Joe in the back, where Joe was speaking to the camera about the first lesson that we learned tonight. So now apparently Hook is sitting under his learning tree. And I'm sure we're going to hear, and that means that now we have to deal with poor Samoa Joe interacting with Chris Jericho.
Samoa Joe was the world champion. He lost about to Swerve a couple months ago. Really haven't seen him do much since, right when they need top guys. I heard from someone who went to the show in California, Dynamite last week. They said Samoa Joe, when he appeared, got one of the biggest pops of the night. Now, again, it's California. It's his home. But still.
Well, did anybody get a pop anywhere at this point? Brian, not only the WWE, but any major successful wrestling company or promotion that you can think of, territory, era, whatever, if the previous champion, whoever the top guy in that company was, recognized, world champion, U.S. champion, whatever the fucking top belt was, if they lost that belt and they were staying in the company, it wasn't like, see ya, I'm gone, that's why I'm losing the bet. If they lost the belt to someone else, but was still staying in the company or the territory, the promotion, didn't you see them more after they lost it on television than before, getting wins back, having a chance to talk about it, explain yourself, bitch about it, whatever? You were pushed more.
Unless you were leaving. That's right.
Unless you were leaving. Joe's still there, and he was the world fucking champion 4 months ago. And then where'd he go?
Now he's in a feud. He's in a feud with a tree.
And a cardboard tree. And how does it speak about the booking and the sense of, or the logicalness or whatever about the booking, when the former world champion, the guy that was just your champion, is still in the company, and he's obviously not important enough to your gates or your ratings or whatever that you are even putting him on the shows. So you booked your former world champion into complete irrelevance, because elsewise then you're just being an idiot not putting a major draw on the fucking program. So either way, it's fucking stupid. And now, bless us all, every single one of us, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, we're at the 9 o'clock hour. It's only half of that program. And Don Fallis was in the ring to present a contract to the newest member of the Don Fallis family. And at that point, I say, you know what? I'm just really not going to fucking suffer this probably. But then here came Pockets, and I knew I wasn't going to suffer it. And I can give the sub by Brian. If you muddled through any of this, please give me the details. But Pockets came out and tore up the contract that Don had. And then Stokely and Chris Statlander came out. And then suddenly Trent was there and beat up Pockets. And I guess now Trent is in the family. And at the end of the fast forwarding, I wrote, poor Chris Statlander. She can't get away from these fucking losers. Was there any other significant detail, or do we even need to dignify this type of activity as wrestling?
I mean, Trent now with Don Callis, because that heel stable has done so well. They have the most popular guy in the company.
Well, somebody else that Osprey can beat now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone beats Trent, so why not?
Well, but he's got to be in the family. He's got to be one of the stablemates to get to wrestle him now, right? He only wrestles his own fucking men.
And then Stokely and Statlander turned at the pay-per-view. Don Callis is already, I mean, the fans enjoy booing him, which is different than booing someone because you hate them or booing someone specifically because you want them off TV like Jericho. But how are you supposed to take him seriously, his stable seriously? No one cares about Trent. Orange Cassidy's been dead for a while and they don't realize it. Another bad segment.
If you have a manager that has never had any legitimate success or a track record of managing top guys in a territory, then you just got another mouth to feed. You have to put credibility in managers. There's no such thing as a job guy manager, or there didn't used to be, because there's no reason for it. And it just dilutes whatever you're doing and gives somebody else to fucking pay. I'm not saying that Stokely is not any good, but he's never not the way he's been presented here. He never does anything major with anybody major that anybody fucking remembers. It's just wandering around doing these miscellaneous underneath things. That's not needed from a manager. Either shit or get off the pot, as Mama Cornette used to say. Use the guy with top people or don't fucking use him. And later on, they did a promo in the back, Statlander. She was like a little who. She started off low and then continued to grow. She did a promo where it almost sounded a little shaky at the beginning, but by the time she worked herself up, she had some goddamn level of indignation in her voice, and she can go in the ring. She's got the size, and she can talk better than many of these girly girls. But she's mired in with these underneath people that we're not going to fucking give a shit about, and or the comedy guy. And that's where they keep her, while they desperately need female talent that's worth a shit to somehow get something out of all the female talent that they've paid a fortune to, the Pages and the Mercedeses and etc. That, or what's her name now? Saria. Saria. But anyway, there was that. There was that with these people.
Good promo from Statlander, I thought.
That's what I just said.
That's what I'm reiterating.
You're concurring with me. Would you like to concur with that?
I can concur with that. I don't know if I could concur any further. We'll hear what you have to say.
Well, speaking of curs, let's go to the next match. You had Mercedes Moon versus Blue Sky, the match that Tony Khan texted or signaled or, yelled out the fucking, entranceway that he'd made earlier in the night after this vicious attack by bad old Blue Sky. Bad Blue. Bad girl. Very bad girl. You need to be punished. And so, again, who is the heel here? Is it the girl who just beat Willow Nightingale for the belt, and Willow's the most popular girl in the company, and she's just been turned on by her former friends, Mercedes Moon? Or is it Blue Sky, the girl who not only a month ago attacked someone in the dark and beat the bejesus out of them in a darkened room, but has now done it again, attacked somebody from behind earlier tonight? Which moral crusade are you going to take, Brian? Whose side are you on?
I think they tried to get her back to being a babyface here tonight, because I think Sky Blue is clearly a heel because she's aligned with Julia, who's in the House of Black. But again, Willow's the biggest babyface in the division.
Does it work that way? Can you have a week where you like Hitler? Can he be a good guy for a week because he does something, and then next week we'll turn him heel again?
No, Hitler's always a heel, but in AEW, we've seen that from the men's division and the women's division. You're a heel one week, you're a babyface the next week. Tony Storm and Serena Deeb. Will Ospreay with Don Callis. It's everyone. There are very few people that are like in defined roles.
Well, this role was defined by the fact that Mercedes she wasn't going to do a job here, so she won. She did win, and then music played, and out came, as the announcer said, "Oh my God, that's Stephanie Vacker from CMLL." Like that they were saying, "Oh, look, it's Madonna." And who the fuck is this now?
And they put the big CMLL logo on the screen.
Yeah, so it was like some people in the crowd probably thought her name was Kamul. Who? They turned to their fucking people sitting next to him. Who is Kamul? Is that Camille? Is that Camille from the NWA? But she had to change her name to Kamul.
Her name used to be Emil, but then they started calling it Kamul.
Well, come see, come saw, but whichever kind of come this was, is this going to do him any good now that Mercedes is now going to be, and Stephanie there had a stern look on her face. She didn't look too baby-face-ish, so now we're supposed to be cheering for Mercedes against the girl with the mean face after she just beat poor Willow. She hit Willow, hit Willow, hit Willow. And all right. It's Madonna.
It's Forbidden Door season. We're going to start seeing random people we've never seen before pop up on this show.
I thought he'd signed them all the random people that we'd never seen before. So we were seeing them regularly.
Forbidden Door season's like Tony Khan's All-American Wrestling. He focuses on everyone else's wrestlers and then he signs them. It's like his scouting show.
All right. Then they had the big live interview with the Buckaroos and Okody and Jungle Jack off, where it was more of the usual, only much more of it. You had Perry mouthing off. The Buckaroos, plugged their tennis shoes. We are expected to believe that they gifted Okody with a Lamborghini that we got to see on the screen revving its motor before it went back to the fucking lot, I'm sure. But here's the thing, when they give Goofball the Lamborghini, the fans chanted, "You deserve it," at the heel. He's in the heel. He's the only one the fans like. The fans still like old Okada. He's the only one they like out of this group, but they like him because I guess of what he used to do, because no fucking human being with vision and cognitive function could be very impressed with what he's done since he's been there. But they like him, so they ought to. Then here's what they ought to be doing. Instead of trying to make him some kind of Japanese James Bond looking motherfucker that he ain't ready for, they ought to be taking advantage of him. He ought to be the clean-cut Japanese fucking hero with great attitude that signed with these Americans who misrepresented their self to him because of the language barrier. And now they're making him do fucking dirty stuff. And the people don't want him to do the dirty stuff because they like him. So finally, when once again, as he has the Planet of the Apes moment, and he finally says, No. Boom. Then you like the fucking deal, and there you go. But no, they're just making him some fake dipshit like they are. But so the fans are chanting, you deserve it at the heel for getting a Lamborghini. What do they think they ought to give the babyface? A goddamn 737 jumbo jet?
And his acting was really bad, and you're starting to see it now from AEW fans and New Japan fans that Okada has lost his luster here in the States. Didn't take very long. And whether he is the Okada he was 10 years ago or a different wrestler physically now, having someone like that come in with the salary they are making, there had to be a number of ways to use that person better so that they meant something. He doesn't mean that much right now. I mean, I don't know if he would have, but it just seems like another blown opportunity with Okada.
And these guys see themselves. I don't know what Okada's thinking, but Perry and the Buckaroos see themselves as something that nobody else sees them as. They have deluded themselves into believing they're these badass, great talents, whatever the persona. But Tony's doing the same thing. He's pretending in his mind, he's convinced himself that he is what he wants to be, that he is a booker, and he is putting all these great matches together and doing all this stuff, and it doesn't function in his brain that everybody else is looking and laughing. And so then these guys, they made fun of Edge breaking his legs, they get some heat, and stripped him of the TNT title, but gave it to old Perry boy there. But then suddenly, Chris Daniels comes out, and son of a gun, they fired him a few weeks ago, but he's got a new job now. He is the interim EVP that is there to make Tony Khan's announcements. Finally, God damn it. You think he's finally admitted he can't be coming out there and talking on TV anymore like we've been saying for 5 years? Get a fucking wrestler that can do a promo that people might halfway believe in to make your fucking announcements instead of thanks, guys. But, at least they're following up. Remember we said when they fired him was the first time that we'd heard that he had the job. And then they fired him from it, but now he's back and he's got a new job. It was given to him by Tony Khan himself. That he should have said, the guy's sitting 50 feet behind me, right behind the curtain. It could have stopped any of this nonsense at any time. I only have the power he gives me. Right? But anyway, then Christopher Daniels announced a series of qualifying matches on the TV shows, to the winners of which will go into a multiple person ladder match at Forbidden Door to determine who the new TNT champion is. Did I get that out?
I think so. I'm still a little confused on the whole thing.
Well, and I said he needed somebody to make the announcements. Now I'm going to start calling for somebody to write the announcements. But anyway, the EVPs went to try to beat up Daniels, but here came Max Caster and Anthony Bowens and Superstar Billy Gunn. And they came out and they had a big standoff where everybody stared and looked at each other with mean intent. Snot running down their noses and greasy fingers smearing their shabby clothes as they stood there and looked at each other. And that was the end of that.
Yeah, sure was. Again, this is the follow-up to the pay-per-view. Christopher Daniels, the other problem, too, is he looks like a bootleg Adam Pearce. He looks like if Adam Pearce had a little mini Adam Pearce. He's half the size of Adam Pearce, but that's what he looks like.
And Chris is from up in Chicago, too. That's fucking great. Yeah, I wonder if some way or another there could be some type of interspecial relation, whereas they could sit him on his knee like the old Twilight Zone episode of the dummy that eventually took over and the ventriloquist became the dummy and vice versa. Could be some spooky shit.
This Young Buck stuff is not working. I repeat what I said a couple weeks ago. Nick Jackson is a fantastic flunky in a group. And he could bump. Matt Jackson makes you want to turn off the TV. He's pretty unbearable out there. But again, heel stable, beating up the owner of the company and hospitalizing Kenny. And it doesn't matter. They're just another goofy act on this show. They don't do anything serious. If they had been serious for any of this for the last couple months, it'd be a different conversation today. But they hammed it up. They made it bad comedy. They made it bad Young Buck segments. And no one gives a shit. And no one buys Jack Perry. Jack Perry's the size of Adam Cole. Give me a break. He may have a better tan, better facial hair, but he's a tiny guy. So you have all these tiny guys and Okada, who's in the ring out of place. It looks like shit. And the fans started chanting CM Punk. They got in there. The fans started chanting CM Punk at him. So that's the last thing you want, because they're supposed to be heels because of all that, but we're not supposed to acknowledge any of that.
You punked out. You punked out.
And now Christopher Daniels, is he going to be in this general manager role? Or what, temporary EVP, whatever it was?
Maybe next week?
Show wide? Or is it just in the Young Bucks segments?
Well, it depends on
because he's one of their guys. You know, those Southern California guys in the clique, they all like to do stuff together, help each other out, get each other jobs. Is he going to be involved with other people's stuff or just the SoCal guys?
It depends on when Tony has to put his foot down and can't bear to walk out there and do it himself. He's got somebody to do it now.
Hey, real quick, one last question. If Chris Daniels is still one of the people in charge of human relations. Human relations.
Now, are we going back to the mixed tag team I suggested earlier?
I meant humiliations. No, I meant if he's in charge of talent, whatever. What am I thinking of? Not talent exchange. Talent relations. Talent relations. I was going to get there one way or another, ladies and gentlemen. Should he have that job and be an on-air character? Is there an issue there at all, do you think? Not just with him, but with anyone?
No, because again, I go back to when Jim Ross was lead announcer on Raw and at the same time was head of talent relations. Besides the fact that it was two incredibly difficult jobs that one person was doing, so that it was potentially to JR's detriment, but it wasn't a conflict of anything, because if a guy is good at both those things, there's no reason he shouldn't be allowed to do them. In this case, you know, if I don't know whether Daniels is good or not, I haven't heard a rating on him, but if he's got the talent relations job, but at the same time, he's an experienced wrestler that fan base especially knows, and he can talk better than Tony Khan, then I think that's fair to give it a try, because this thing needs all the help it can get.
Remember, he was in the room with them when they went into Punk's room and made a move for him.
Well, yeah.
He was there with him.
He knows what the fuck's going on and what's gone on, but he can still talk better than Tony Khan. So,
but that's the problem. Do you really believe this is going to be the end of Tony Khan on this show? He loves the attention. He loves making the announcements. He loves talking to the press or talking at the press. He lives for this.
Well, maybe he'll just stick to driving the guys up and dropping them off at the back. That's the last time we saw him.
See, I could drive.
MJF is going to be dropped off next week. He returns next week.
Did they need to do more with him? Again, this is the show after the pay-per-view. That was one of the things people were really buzzing about out of the pay-per-view. Did they need to do more? Did he need to be here? What do you think?
Boy, especially on a show this dreary. I get the idea that that was a surprise return and they wanted to have time to promote his return on television for ratings. So to have a little bit of your Kate and your Edith too, they could have, while he was at the pay-per-view, have him, because MJF, he can talk for half a day about absolutely nothing. Have him record 45 seconds to a minute that they could play on the screen in the arena and on television, promoting him being on TV next week, and what he's going to say is going to shock everybody, and just building up what the fuck instead of, I get they want to promote it, but since you've already seen the guy and you know he's around, now all those people in the Los Angeles Forum, probably half of them went home and go, well, fuck. No MJF. Give him something and give us something and let him promote as only he can his segment next week on television. And not all day. Don't give it to him. He's promising the fucking hand job in this promo, and he's giving him the hand job next week. You see what I'm saying?
I don't know exactly if I see it, but I think I have an idea.
You can envision it in your head, imagine it in your mind's eye.
Well, maybe you can, maybe you'd like to, but
and here's another thing. Then they go to the back for an interview with, remember our friend Rush? He's still around, and he still can't speak. It's like somebody had him literally eat a tablespoon of Elmer's glue and his entire mouth is stuck together. And he said, if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. Didn't he?
That is exactly how he said horns. Yes, it is.
The Thomas Hitman horns.
Someone should have said maybe your catchphrase should be something you could pronounce.
Well, if he's supposed to be the goddamn bull, then how can he not pronounce the word horns?
Horns.
So I hope to God that was just something they had him say, and not that we will see MJF working around the horns of Roosh.
That'd be an interesting first opponent for MJF.
Oh, good Lord.
Especially because Roosh kicks the shit out of everyone he wrestles.
I was about to say, I have a feeling that streak would come to an end if it actually started happening with MJF, because I believe that he would recognize that he was higher up on the pecking order than this fucking dipshit that beats everybody up and sells dick all of nothing.
Remember he wrestled Jack Perry, threw him all over the fuck, every single barricade he threw him into.
That would have been an angle in the territory days of a way to just fucking hurt a babyface on his way out. And then, by the way, let me just bring up that there was also then a 20-man casino gauntlet bullshit for something, for a title match somewhere against somebody somehow. And I just said, fuck this. And I don't know what happened from there.
Will Ospreay won the gauntlet match.
Well, what match does he get now? He just won a title. He just got a belt.
He did, but hold on, let me just double check, because as you're asking me that, I'm thinking of what he gets, and I just want to make sure I'm right, because it sounds a little ridiculous.
Wait a minute, he just won a goddamn...
Did he get a title shot?
He just won a championship on Sunday night on the fucking pay-per-view. He won his championship by the Intercontinental thing or whatever the fuck. So he's competing on Wednesday for another title match at another title.
The winner of that match, I was right. I didn't want to say it until I confirmed it. The winner of that match gets a world title shot at Forbidden Door. So it'll be Swerve versus Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door.
Whoa, how the fuck they gonna figure that finish? And wait a minute, does it? Well, what about the New Japan World Title? Does it say AEW World Title?
It does not say that, but I would think that it would signal. It would say IWGP if it was, because they're really uptight about who gets shots.
Well, but then also, my God, then it'd be Ostrich and Moxley. We wouldn't want that. Well, how the fuck are they going to do that? Wouldn't the match that they?
Why not do it at Wembley if you're going to put the belt on them?
Well, that's what the match that they would want at Wembley Stadium that we've said is going to be Will Ospreay winning a title from somebody. And why wouldn't you take the next 3 months or so and see how strong you can make Swerve after you've torn him down to begin with?
Unless they're going to try to do a multiple match thing where this is match one and it culminates at Wembley. Because that seems to be an AEW thing, the multiple match thing leading to the paper.
Good Lord. Well, they got 3 months for a classic Ali Frazier trilogy. Good luck. What?
They have not done Swerve any favors. And again, Ospreay just won a championship. He now, the next time you see him, wins a title shot. Now he has to have a title match. And he shouldn't be losing anything right now.
And if he wins that title, then he's just won that fucking title, unless they could stretch it out for 3 months.
And he shouldn't be losing. And then on the other hand, if Swerve loses, what does that say? He's dead in the water at that point.
Well, that's what. So is he now won the title match that he's going to have 3 months from now at Wembley Stadium? Or are they just going to go ahead and have it?
Maybe it'll go to a draw.
Oh, boy.
Who knows? But I mean, he won.
Well, that'll send the fucking seats into flames.
Again, they had to do something because of Adam Copeland's injury at his own hands. Or his own feet, maybe I should say. They had to do something. They didn't put it on Jack Perry, but they teased it. That's fine. This match, all of a sudden... Oh, no, that was a separate thing. That's a whole separate gauntlet tournament situation.
What?
I was thinking of the Christopher Daniels thing that he set up.
No, that's for... Yeah.
That's a different thing. Yeah.
That's for the other championship.
I take all of it back. I take it back.
Oh, well, never mind.
Ospreay won a title from Roddy Strong. Now he gets a title shot. He shouldn't lose. If Swerve loses, it's completely counterproductive.
Yes.
Tony's booking himself into a Tony Khan situation.
Well, and here's another thing is all the titles that you just got confused about. Why was he even in a gauntlet match to potentially win a shot at the world title when just 3 days ago he won the, what do they call it? Now I've made so much fun of it. The international title.
Was it that one or the Continental one? Oh, no, Continental's Okada.
Oh, God damn it. If whatever the fuck that Cassidy had for a while, Roddy got it from him. Anyway, wouldn't you then say, well, if I'm the international champion, I deserve to be named number one kid because it's Will Ostrich, the big boy wonder. I deserve to be named number one contender. Why would he just fight 20 people in a random TV match to get and wouldn't you wait more than 3 days until you had exhausted other options before I'll just fight in the 20-guy match and get a shot at the other title now that I've won this before I even defend this thing, whatever. I'm done with the show. That's all I saw.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite. No need for time travel. We are in the moment right now. But Jim, before we get to ratings and anything else we got to talk about here today, it's important to note that
yes,
the rumor is MJF got into really great shape while he was rehabbing his injury, while he had time off. And he probably had a very good diet, I would think, during that period of time. A lot of protein. Maybe he was eating a lot of steak from our friends at Omaha Steaks.
Well, as a matter of fact, you may be correct. You may be correct in that because, as a matter of fact, everybody needs some protein. Everybody needs to have the protein and the calories and the sustenance, but especially now that it's coming up on Father's Day. And MJF is their daddy. He's AEW's daddy, all right. He's the one they got to depend on him for support and sustenance and food that they can shove down their neck. And that's the same thing that you can do with Omaha Steaks, is depend on them for food and sustenance. Because, Brian, they have hand-selected gift packages for Father's Day this year, starting at just $89. And hand-selected, I'm talking about when you place your order, when you say, I want for old Daddy Festus, I want this particular package, then as soon as one of the Omaha Steaks personnel gets that order, they start hand-selecting that package. They say, I'm going to take one of these and pick it right up here. That looks like the best New York. I'm going to stick that in there. Whoa, what about the bacon wrap filet? I'll get this one out of the middle. And they put them all in your custom-made, hand-selected gift package there. And they're flash frozen. They are, where else are they? I've lost my arrow.
Beyond flash frozen, they are also Cold to the core.
No. Cold to the bone. No, flash frozen and vacuum sealed is the phrase I was going. They're flash frozen, vacuum sealed, and ready to prepare whenever you'd like to put them on the grill or whenever Dad would like to put them on the grill. They're all backed by the unconditional 100% money back guarantee and brought out to 5 generations of family-owned expertise in Omaha steaks. The entire Omaha family, for back to great-great-grandfather Omaha. They have been involved in this, and I'll have you know that still Granny Omaha, 93 years old, smokes a corncob pipe. Originally hailed from Missouri, she is still out there every day at the plant, hitting some of them cows in the head with a sledgehammer to provide the American public with sustenance. They had to give her a smaller sledgehammer than she normally. When she turned 80, she tore a rotator cuff and she had to give up the 10-pound hammer.
Ladies and gentlemen, especially those of you concerned with the humane treatment of animals, this story was all made up. There's no old granny with a hammer
What?
beating animals in the head. I just want to
Do
make
you
sure we
mean-
stress this here.
Do you mean this press release I saw was incorrect and was manufactured some kind of way? Well, I'll tell you what, Father's Day is not fake. And it's right around the corner. And if you want to put a smile on your father's face or just get him off your back, or perhaps Mother would like to get Father off her back. She said, I'm not doing that kind of shit years ago. But whatever, you can order him some steak or the endless flavor and variety and value with the juicy pork chops, the air-chilled chicken, the beefy burgers, the steak fries, or the steakhouse fries. They're not fries made out of steak. They're steakhouse type of lard. The potato wedges is what they are, and they're very good. But whatever you want for Father's Day, they've been naturally aged for the ultimate in tenderness, juiciness, and flavor. Naturally aged. As a matter, it's like distressed furniture. Somebody asked me, you think that chest will be cheap? It's distressed. I said, it looks positively suicidal. But anyway, the Omaha steaks, they look good, boy, and juicy. And did I mention they come to you with a 100% money back guarantee? Go right now as quickly as you can to omahasteaks.com. Use the promo code JCE at checkout, and you will save even more on the exclusive packages starting at just $89 than you normally would when you're already saving money because these packages start at just $89. And I'll tell you what, in this day and age, to find an $89 package, that's incredible right there, but you get a discount if you use the promo code JCE over there at omahasteaks.com. Have I made you hungry yet, Brian? And gravy.
Well, not anymore. I was hungry before, but not anymore. But I'll be hungry again later today with Omaha Steaks, those delicious franks, the burgers, the potatoes, and steak.
Yes.
Don't forget the steak. I'm yelling for no good reason. What's that promo code, Jim?
JCE.
What was that?
JCE.
JCE.
Well, if you're going to scream, I got to counteract it.
Well, an awkward end to that Omaha Steak segment makes us have to...
Well, we didn't need time travel, so now we had to go to the ballpark.
That's right. It's a very pleasant sound. It gets you up and makes you feel happy because we got ratings to talk about, Jim.
I bet they need something to get them up, but go ahead.
AEW Dynamite, Wednesday, May 29th, 2024, 8 to 10:05 p.m. on TBS. On average, 787,000 viewers.
Oh, so they got a big jump. They got a big jump off their pay-per-view. They're up like 70,000 people this week.
Again, less competition, but also, it's important to note, the highest overall number since April 10th. The highest key demo number since April 17th. And according to WrestleNomics, it is up 10% off last week's show, which was 713, 12% off the trailing 4-week average of 700,000. Again, it's not over 800,000, but we're starting to get back to the point we were before the playoffs.
Well, or is it we're starting to get back to the point where they just completely went in the shitter about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and this is an anomaly?
We shall see. Again,
We shall see.
Everything's been downhill since the Punk video aired. But AEW Dynamite, May 29th, compiled by WrestleNomics. Here are the quarter hours. Jim, quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. Mercedes Moné's live promo and angle with Sky Blue. A Double or Nothing recap. And the start of Kill Switch versus Swerve Strickland with picture-in-picture. 931,000 viewers.
Okay, well, did this have anything to do? They started much higher than they have been also. They've been down in the 8s and 7s lately. Or the Big Bang Theory is making a resurgence.
Well, again, once the playoffs started and once the feed started airing live on the West Coast, there was a slight hit, or a significant hit. You have to think that's starting to get back to where it was. Now, it's not as high as it was, but it's level now, maybe.
Well.
And speaking of level, we always say the true number is quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. The continuation of Kill Switch versus Strickland with the post-match, an ad break, and Jon Moxley's backstage promo. 739,000 viewers.
Oh, sweet Jesus. 192,000 people. Well, now this isn't even going to get them an average unless they get some of those people back. And they have to. What the fuck happened there?
Very, very interesting. Quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. Chris Jericho and Big Bill in the TV Time Learning Tree segment, I guess, with Brian Keith, Hook, and Samoa Joe. Stephanie Vacour video, and then a Rocky Romero. Oh no, then the start of Rocky Romero.
Did you say Stephanie that whore video?
I did not say that in any way. I said Stephanie Vacour, if that is indeed how you pronounce her name.
I think it's Vacker.
Well, she had a video followed by the start of Moxley versus Rocky Romero with picture-in-picture. 787,000 viewers.
All right, they just wanted to get out of segment 2 no matter what happened. So they got 48,000 back. They're only 144,000 below where they started.
And not counting the opening segment, because that's an inflated number, and not counting the overrun, this was also the high point in the key demo. 347,000, 18 to 49-year-old males. We go to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The continuation of Moxley versus Romero, the Samoa Joe and Hook promo, an ad break, and the start of the Don Callis Orange Cassidy live contract segment. 689,000 viewers.
What?
Also, the low point in the key demo, 287,000.
Good Lord. So they lost 198,000 there. Might as well say 100. And yeah, all right. But they've got to come back up again just to meet their average at this point.
Well, we go to the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m., quarter 5. The continuation of Callis and Cassidy and Trent and Statlander and Stokely's live angle. Daniel Garcia and Matt Menard's backstage promo.
I missed that.
And the start of Mercedes Moné versus Sky Blue.
So they gave her the top of the show and the top of the 9 o'clock hour, by the way, or very near the top of the 9 o'clock hour.
With picture-in-picture, 779,000 viewers.
So that is a plus 79, 89, 90,000 people. The question is, was it Mercedes or was it the top of the hour?
Well, it continued.
Or both.
The match continued into the next quarter. Quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Continuation of Moné versus Blue. The post-match with Vacour and Hathaway. And, oh no, excuse me, this is separate. A Hathaway and Statlander backstage promo, an ad break, an MJF video, and the beginning of the Elite's live promo. 791,000 viewers.
So they not only held them, but they got an extra 12,000.
You could argue that she got another 12,000 people to check that out. But we ended the segment with the Elite. That's how we start quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Elite's confrontation with Christopher Daniels and the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. The Swerve Strickland backstage promo. An ad break. Rush's backstage promo.
Oof.
And the start of the gauntlet match, which began with Pac versus Jay White. 778,000 viewers.
That's better than I thought it was going to be. They only lost, 13,000. So they're holding steady in the second hour, 779, 791, 778.
Well, we go now to quarter 8. I remind you there is an overrun. The continuation of the gauntlet match with 2 picture-in-pictures consisting of White versus Pac versus Mystico versus Claudio Castagnoli versus Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay versus Hechicero versus Lio Rush.
Oh, what?
Versus Shoto Umino.
Oh, boy.
And that continued into the next quarter, as I said. Quarter 8, 772,000 viewers.
What the fuck?
Overrun, 10 to 10:07, it says here, WrestleNomics, 850,000 viewers.
Okay, well, again, kudos to them. They managed to keep between 772 and 791 for the entire second hour. Has that ever happened before?
The last quarter, minus the overrun, was slightly down, but they had a rise. Actually, that was down off the one. There was no rise, really, I guess.
But it was
relatively consistent for the...
Yes, within a range of 19,000 people over an hour, which is, pretty much normal fluctuation, I would imagine it. So, again, for that show, they just decided they were going to stick, except for quarter 4. A lot of people said, nah, fuck this. But otherwise, because they were within...
Because it was Moxley, and it was Moxley against someone who the fans... other than him running out there with Trent, the fans watching the show don't know who Rocky Romero is.
Take that quarter out, and they were between 739 and 791 for the whole rest of the show. Take the first quarter out in the overrun, obviously.
Does that set them up nicely for next week with MJF's return?
Well, I think they're going to... None of these shows sets anything up for anybody nicely. But I think they're going to get probably their biggest quarter that they've gotten in a while to see, what he's going to say and do and whatever. And whether they can keep it as flat as they did this show, or whether it's going to continue to drop off the cliff like the normal shows do, we will find out.
We certainly will, and those were the TV ratings, Jim. And on the topic of ratings, the listeners have been sending them in. Dave Meltzer's latest star ratings just came out. For AEW's pay-per-view, as well as King and Queen of the Ring. I already hear you slapping and smacking something over there.
I'm putting my paper down and being prepared to hear this drivel.
The matches you didn't see, Deonna Purrazzo. This is let me say it from the beginning. Dave Meltzer's star ratings for AEW Double or Nothing, as reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. The matches you didn't see, Jim. Deonna Purrazzo, pinned Thunder Rosa 10-14, 2 3/4 stars. And Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed beat Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony 3 stars. Now we go to the main show. The opening match. Will Ospreay defeating Roddy Strong 17-47, 4 3/4 stars.
Oh my gosh. So right there, that opener was better than everything in the Kurt Angle canon. If we were being led to, it's ridiculous at this point. They would almost somebody would have to have some kind of fatal aneurysm in the ring and just drop over and begin to rot before he would say, boy, that match really, that was not any good. Everything is levels of great.
Well, the next match, Jay White and the Guns versus Pac, or they beat Pac, Penta, and Rey Fenix, 12-20, 4 stars.
Of course, because that's one of the underneath matches. So that's, the typical Flair Steamboat type of rating.
Toni Storm defeated Serena Deeb, 15 minutes, 39 seconds, 3.5 stars.
Well, and that's, again, within the realm of reason, because he has to take a half star off because they're girls, or some people would just, completely fart all over it. But, and also, I forget, was that one of the matches there was something wrong in? Something happened? Was there a power outage or something that only got 3.5 stars? I don't know.
But the next match, Orange Cassidy defeated Trent Beretta, 13:53, 3 3/4 stars.
Ooh, now that's kind of telling that he's almost coming out and saying that Pockets and Trent aren't as good as Michaels and The Undertaker, or, something like that. Is that kind of heretical speech in Meltzer land?
How about this one? Chris Jericho defeating Hook and Katsuyori Shibata, 12 minutes, 37 seconds, 2.25 stars.
Ooh.
Is that the lowest we've ever seen an AEW match rated?
I think that may be the new dud.
Wow. Very interesting there.
Because, there have been people that have been knocked unconscious mid-match and drug off, and the rest of the thing continued in that company. It got more stars than that.
Moxley defeated Takeshita, 17-19, 4.25 stars.
Of course, because now we get back to the people he's really trying to please. And, of course it was, if you closed your eyes and didn't watch any of it.
Peg Leg Copeland defeated Malachi Black in a barbed wire cage match, 20 minutes, 18 seconds, 4.25 stars.
It's almost a broken record at this point, isn't it? With the exception of when it would just, everybody would see through it. Like everybody knows that Jericho's match was the shites, or, something like that. Everything has to be 4 stars and over, to satisfy certainly not the fans who are reading this, but the marks that are reading it, the ones in the matches.
Mercedes Moné defeated Willow Nightingale, 17 minutes, 59 seconds.
Every bit of it.
4.5 stars.
Oh, God, their match was better than the goddamn... All right.
Swerve Strickland defeated Christian Cage, 24 minutes, 49 seconds. 4.25 stars. And finally,
wait a minute. Did Willow and Mercedes, did they get an extra half a star, or just kind of a handicap for having to be sandwiched in between the rest of this mess when it was just the two of them?
I don't know, but finally, Jim, Anarchy in the Arena. The Young Bucks, Jack Perry and Okada versus FTR, Bryan Danielson and Darby Allin. 29 minutes, 51 seconds. 4.5 stars.
Oh. And the guy who was set on fire with the flamethrower earlier comes back to score the pinfall. That's what put them over the top for that extra half a star.
Well, it's interesting. A few matches got lower numbers than we've been seeing from Dave's AEW star ratings, and then the entire main part of the card, I guess you could say, everything was well over 4 stars. So it sounds like this was Dream Slam 3.
The ones that didn't get the good numbers, it was because they were such stinkers that you would have to say something if you were just expecting anybody not to shit all over you. He had to admit that Jericho's thing was... But every other kind of match, no matter whether somebody broke their leg in it or the fucking complete ridiculous expose of any credibility of the business, or the goddamn, in the case of Moxley, just his general overall state of rotten work. You can't believe anything that happens. It's all 4+, baby.
Well, Jim,
Yeah.
we have Dave Meltzer's star ratings for WWE King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia. Would you like to hear these?
Oh, go ahead. At least it won't take as long. They didn't force as many matches down our throats.
And I think this is the match you did not see. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defeated Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, 8 minutes, 2 seconds. A star and 3/4.
Oh, come on.
The match was below average, but the finish looked good.
Okay, now I'm willing to believe that it sucked.
I'm reading the review here. Hold on, let me read what Dave wrote, because I didn't watch this thoroughly. The story of the match is Bianca came in with a bad knee from the Nia Jax match the night before. Belair pressed LeRae, and then her knee gave out. LeRae chop blocked her when Belair was giving Hartwell a vertical suplex. Hartwell at one point drop kicked Cargill from behind, and Cargill did a mistimed delayed sell. Belair and Cargill used a Shoto, followed by a German suplex by Belair on LeRae for the pin. So that tells you
the point is, I said I'm more than happy to say, okay, I can visualize that may have sucked, but I can't believe that it was only half as good as the singles girls match on the other show, or that the Jericho thing was somehow superior to whatever they did if it didn't involve goddamn choking to death on a sandwich and having to have the Heimlich done on them in the middle of the thing.
Liv Morgan defeated Becky Lynch, 15 minutes, 22 seconds, 2 3/4 stars.
And again, say what you want. And believe me, I ain't no Liv Morgan fan, but we've got Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch, and that's not as good as Serena and Tony.
Sami Zayn defeated Chad Gable and Bronson Reed, 13 minutes, 39 seconds, 3 3/4 stars.
Oh, for fun. And that was not nearly as bad as anything else on the AEW pay-per-view, and was professionally done and not an insult to the industry. But he couldn't crack 4 on his scale on that one because there's no friends involved.
Nia Jax defeated I still don't know what her name is. Lyra Valkyria?
Okay, I remember him giving matches with Plowboy Frazier -2 stars. So what does he do here since the scale has been inflated? Do they get the 1.5 maybe?
A star and a half.
Son of a gun. Well, there you go.
Gunther defeated Randy Orton, 21 minutes, 50 seconds, 4 1/4 stars.
And honestly, the only argument that I have with that is that he's rating it the same or even less as the garbage outlaw indie matches on the other show, so it has no credibility. But if I was going to give a wrestling match 4 stars or thereabouts, I would have to have had to give it to Gunther and Orton.
And finally, Jim, Cody Rhodes defeated Logan Paul, 24 minutes, 15 seconds, 4 1/4 stars.
And again, I said when we talked about the King of the Ring, the best match was Gunther and Orton. The most exciting match was Cody and Zabada, Logan Paul. And pretty much those were the 2 matches on the show. So he's got to, I guess, again, just to present some element of credibility, he just ranks them equally, but at least he puts them up there on the AEW scale. But notice there was 2 4-star matches and fucking a bunch of 1s on the WWE show. But meanwhile, there's whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Well, Jim, let's get past the ratings, and we're going to try to get to some
He's
questions.
not grading professionalism. He's not grading the quality of the psychology or the story of the matches, the work that's telling that story, the execution of any kind of fundamentals, or he's not critiquing the overbooking and the mess of the finishes and the flops there. He's just, did they do a lot of moves? So it's not, you can't really apply that to the same scale to what anybody else is doing.
Well, there it is, the star ratings. And speaking of stars, Jim, of course, you are the star of the show. We have some questions that have been sent in for the star of the show.
Yes.
We have 500 or so questions here on the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, on top of all these other questions here via email.
Not all of them today.
Let me start with this one because a lot of people are sending it. Let me see if this one explains things well. This was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com by a nosy Parker named Jack from Glasgow, Scotland. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I must know if Jim has any thoughts on Missy Hyatt's revelation that she and JR had dated for a period of about 2 years after he lost his beloved wife a few years back. People are entitled to a private dating life, of course, but did you happen to know this? We haven't heard, and possibly never will hear what JR has to say about it, but is it at all surprising? So, Missy Hyatt, Jim, did an interview saying that when Jim Ross was living in Jacksonville, when he first moved down there, apparently, he was dating Missy Hyatt.
I did not know that. I sound like I'm doing a Carson McMahon bit. No, I did not know that. Well, I don't go, asking everybody that I've ever known, hey, who you seeing these days or whatever, seeing or not seeing or whatever the interaction they had was. You asked me how I wouldn't have been surprised at any point in time, potentially in both of their lives, if they had been dating each other, except for it to be the past couple years, because I'm thinking, fuck, JR's older than me. I'm not going to talk about Missy's age. She's a lady. But fuck, how do they have the fucking energy to date people? Good heavens. That's the big question on my mind. There's been some couples, and I won't call the names. The one that I'm coming to mind most at the top of my mind, there's one of those people that's still around that I thought, what the fuck? But no, it's not surprising.
Everyone thought that about Pedicino, though, so you could say it.
No, it's not. That's not even the one I'm thinking about. And I'm not going to go any further, except that I still like the person that I'm thinking about that is still around, of the couple that I'm thinking about, that was very surprising to me. But nevertheless, but just the timing of the thing is that we're all in our twilight years now, me and JR and Missy. But apparently Missy's still twinkling a little bit.
Boy, 1986 Jim Ross is twinkling a little bit. That guy's in heaven. Everything he dreamed about in 1986 finally happened.
Well, before, obviously, JR had relationships with people before Jan came along, and I'm not talking about anything that was in that time period, but JR had a number of, and everything wasn't out in the goddamn public back in those days, but JR had a number of relationships with various attractive and internationally known women of intrigue. I don't know how I'm getting out of this fucking thing. But anyway, no, so we're too old for that kind of shit. Gee, Manelli. Stacy has to call AAA to bring the fucking tow truck over just every time she wants to get me out of bed, much less into bed.
Did you hear that Mark Lawrence is dating Stella Mae French?
Oh, would you quit? Would you stop? Mark is a happily married minister, and Stella Mae would have broke him in half.
On the topic of Jim Ross, and I know he's been under the weather lately. I saw some photos of him in the hospital with his daughters.
Yes, and get well and feel better, JR, publicly here.
He is, I believe, still aligned with AEW. I don't remember where we were. His contract was coming up. It wasn't renewed yet. I don't know where he is or where he was. Would you like to see him end his career, whatever that may be at this point, with WWE or with AEW?
Oh, good Lord. I thought you were going to say, that's why would you like him to end his career with AEW? No, the AEW has almost been the end of a number of people's careers. Jury's still out. But no, I think with the new ownership, instead of the insulting way that he was sometimes treated under Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn and John Laurinaitis, the co-conspirator of the fucking, scandal and etc. with the new ownership, it would be nice to see him brought back and finish his career there in terms of, I would think, have you seen the Dan Rather interview shows? Where
Yes.
Dan Rather's 90 fucking years old now or whatever, and he doesn't need to be doing the nightly news, but he's a world-traveled, well-read man who's talked to a variety of world leaders and figures and dignitaries. So they have him do an interview show on, I think it's on Access, whatever it's on.
Yeah, Ted Koppel does a thing every now and then on CBS Sunday Morning.
Yes, and Ted Koppel's what, 107 or whatever, but no,
just about.
So JR would be a spring chicken in this category, but yes, give JR the opportunity or the ability to do some type of sit-down interviews and flesh out productions, whether it be for the Peacock or whether it be for documentaries or whatever the case, and just recognize what he's done and keep his travel schedule light while he's got health issues. And, you know, he always likes to stay busy, but geez, take care of yourself first. He's got more money than most citizens of the state of Oklahoma, so he doesn't need the money.
Well, now that we found out he's a cocksmith, maybe we can talk about a new book he could write, and maybe we could talk about a place he could sell it. Maybe he could set an online store up with Shopify.
Well, and I'll tell you what, right now, I think they have some kind of standards on what kind of pornographic material that you might be able to market through Shopify. I just don't think
a memoir isn't pornographic. I mean,
well,
if it was photos and Polaroids,
you can write about all of the various encounters that he's had with women across the globe and sheep in some instances in some small towns in Mississippi early in his career. The sheep stories alone. Down in Mississippi, though, the payoffs for the fucking Calkins were bad. And sometimes their sheep farm was the only thing that kept the talent coming back to those towns in Mississippi.
All right, enough about the sheep farm.
But folks, if you've got something to sell on the internet that doesn't involve pictures of small town men from Oklahoma with sheep in compromising positions, well, then Shopify can help you out because everything else is pretty much okay. I mean, you can sell nuclear waste on the internet these days. You can sell secrets to various foreign governments and everything in between, but you got to have an attractive storefront. If you want to attract the finest in international internet terrorism today, you got to have an attractive store. You got to have a platform that can handle the sales. I found that out the hard way. You got to have a platform that won't cave in when all the customers put their weight on it. And that's why Shopify is one of the global leaders, if not indeed the global leader. I hesitate to say that everybody is following them around these days, wanting something, got their hand out. The people at Shopify, they're trying to stay ahead of the game, but they got all these people dogging their footsteps, trying to catch up with what they have already done. So they can power your business, Brian, from the word go to the word whoa. And you will utter the word whoa when you see how much money they're going to make you. What would you like to sell on the internet, Brian?
I would say whoa if you tell me more about some of the women Jim Ross was hooking up with. You seem to have a story to tell, my friend.
Well, I'll tell you. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. But that's not anything. That's that not Ozempic, but Olympic or Ozantic.
No, it's type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well.
Well,
it's a little
Jardians. Jardians, don't take that pill, folks, because it will make your fallopian tubes get tangled up in your goddamn IT.
Let's not make any medical decisions or any recommendations. That is for your doctor, and your doctor only.
That's right.
Speak to your medical professional who's gone to medical school, not us.
Yes, and that leave all your medical decisions up to the folks at Shopify, because they'll tell you how to make money on the medicine that you might be receiving from your doctor. You could set up a store, turn around, and resell that stuff.
Well, no, you can't do that's not allowed.
You can't do that?
No, that's certainly not allowed. You're not a pharmacist. You can't resell prescription medication. but you can sell.
What about if you credit the original pharmacist? Say this came from Joe's Discount Pharmacy, but I'm selling it here. So you're giving credit where credit's due.
Still highly illegal, credit or no credit. However, let's say you have crafts. Let's say you have t-shirts. Let's say you have a business. Let's say you make music.
Let's say you're in a rubber room at the Puzzle Factory and they've given you paints and allowed you to have some paper, and now you want to figure out a way to market those pictures. Is that what you're talking about?
Hey, art. You never know where you're going to find the next great artist.
That's right. Whether they got one ear, two ears, whatever, folks, put both your ears up and perk them up while I tell you how that you can sign up for a $1 a month trial period at Shopify.com. All you got to do is go to Shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE in lowercase. That's very important for some reason. And they're going to start you out and finish you up from start to finish. They will tell you exactly what you need to do and how you need to do it. And then they're going to do it for you, and they're going to give you some of the money for doing it. And you're going to be farting through silk you're going to be rolling in the dough. You're going to acquire a mistress. You're going to get a Lamborghini. You're going to start taking trips to Las Vegas where you associate with shady characters. You're going to be that wealthy and that successful.
Or you just keep doing you and put it all in the bank. Either way, you have the opportunity with Shopify to sell to the world. What's that promo code, Jim?
Kind of fun is that?
Sell to the world. What's that promo code, Jim?
Well, you sign up for a $1 a month trial period at Shopify.com/JCE, all lowercase. Go do that now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/JCE.
Ka-ching is right. Shopify.com/JCE. Check them out today.
You remember Ka-ching? He was part of Gary Hart's army along with Pak Song Nam.
All right. Thank you for that information. Ma'am? Nam?
It was Nam.
I know what it was. I'm trying to figure out a way to get out of this. Well, Jim, let's move away from all that, and we're going to talk about this Vince McMahon story in a bit. A lot of the listeners have been sending it over to hear what you think, but let's get a few listener questions. From the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, Marcus Rose wants to know, what does Jim consider the best storyline in Smoky Mountain history?
Well, best storyline is kind of and I'm not trying to equivocate here, but best storyline, since that's not really a wrestling term, best angle, best program, best, the best program we ever had, because of course it started almost at the beginning and lasted till the end, was me and Bob Armstrong. And I don't mean to short any of the other talent or sound, egotistical or lacking humility by putting myself in something like that, but that was the way it was constructed. Because we couldn't do it every week or even every month, but we could go back and forth, and I could manage people against the Armstrong boys, or Bob could be in all the things we did. And it for 4 years, and people still always wanted to see him beat me up or his side to win over my side. And that's what I knew it was going to be from the start. But at the same time, we weren't doing it like a program between the two wrestlers where they're wrestling every month for, on the monthly shows for 3 or 4 months in a row, and then it goes in another direction. That, and the Rock and Roll Express and the Heavenly Bodies probably meant as much or more as any regular wrestling program that we had between two entities, followed closely, I think, by Tracy Smothers and the Dirty White Boy. But yeah, as far as wrestling, when I call them programs, obviously that's the business name for a feud or a rivalry or whatever. The traditional in-ring programs that we did, Rock and Roll and Bodies and Tracy Smothers and White Boy, I think were the most important overall, and also contained some of the best matches. And me and Bullet Bob in and out of the ring as the overriding two forces trying to compete with each other was probably the most profitable thing, or overall box office thing that we did. Well, you saw a bunch of that stuff. What do you think?
Again, we're talking storylines. It's clearly you and Bob Armstrong from the beginning. Bodies and rock and roll is a feud that everyone talks about, but it's you and Bob Armstrong. And in terms of Tracy and Dirty White Boy, that would be up there on the list. And the question really comes to, does it end, I guess? If we're talking storyline and a story that's always there, they have the feud, they have the Bluegrass Brawl match. It goes into the three-way thing with Brian Lee in the summer. So technically they're still involved after what is in a lot of ways the blow-off match.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're teaming up, but they have that history there. So in a lot of ways, you could argue that the story of Tracy and Dirty White Boy is maybe number 2 on the list.
Yeah, and we never really got to flesh them out as much as I would have liked as a team. And then by that point, it would have been interesting. I would have turned White Boy on Tracy if I turned either one of them, because I just couldn't see Tracy being a heel in that territory, in that era at that time. But it would have been interesting just to see. He probably would have got us kicked off TV if we were still on it as a heel.
If Tracy at that point had been able to do promos about the Dirty White Boy, it would have been something. Because at that point in time, I was talking to him all the time. And they were friends, but there was like a frenemy situation, or at least on Tracy's part, just you talk to him about something and then all of a sudden be like, he's a stooge. Tony Anthony's a stooge. I mean, I'm sure you must have heard it because I was hearing it all the time as a 15-year-old.
Well, that's a thing also, is that Tracy would be having a conversation with you where he'd just be talking about something, and then a peripheral name involved in that story would come up, and then he'd just take that 90-degree right to, and he's a stooge, and I'll tell you what he did, and he'd get mad about whatever this fucking guy was he just thought about to talk about him for a second, and then go back with the same calm demeanor about the previous story. But anyway, old Nellie Brown.
It was beyond calm demeanor. It was happiness, because it may have been Tony Anthony, it may have been a few other people, but at one point, because I heard the expression so many times, man, I knock his dick stiff.
Yeah.
But how you doing, Brian? How's it going? He would just all of a sudden cheer up immediately.
I'm not that no good son of a bitch, never respected anybody in this business, or well, hey! It was like windshield wipers.
Yeah, so I think that's 2, is him and Tony Anthony. But you and Bob Armstrong's clearly number 1 because, again, it's not outward, but technically it starts at the very beginning of Smoky Mountain, right? I mean, it wasn't really until the spring summer of '93 where it really exploded, but it had been there for over a year.
Well, and you could tell, and just either with little asides or just the fact that Bob was the ultimate example of honesty, fairness, and justice, and I was the opposite example of any of those things. He was the example of honesty, fairness, and justice, and I was the opposite example of all those things, is what I'm trying to say. So we were going to get to, and the thing also was, I knew I could depend on that long term because I knew I wasn't going anywhere. And Bob was, at the time, I think 52, 53 years old. And it's not like he still didn't look better than a lot of the guys in all the companies and could still work, but I knew nobody was going to sign Bob away from me. And so you could plan long term with guys that you knew would be like that would be extremely valuable. Ron Wright would be extremely valuable to me and my program, and almost nobody else's at that point in time, because it was national TV and they would have had to start at the beginning and nobody would have got it. Right? So I could build around those people as constants, even if I knew that some of my in-ring guys were going to, be back and forth depending on whether they got offers for more money or not.
On the topic of you and Bob Armstrong and that feud, there are some Jim Cornette fans that'll point to the promo on TBS after the Paulie Dangerously attack. There are people that'll point to things in Mid-South or various other promos. But there are some fans, a lot of fans maybe, that think the best promo you ever did was the one in the summer of '93 on Bob Armstrong. It was one of the longest ones you ever did on Smoky Mountain TV, if not the longest. And it told the whole story. And it got Scott Armstrong to come out and reveal that he was Dixie Dynamite. What do you think of people who think that promo is your best promo?
Well, bless their little pea-picking hearts. But no, you know, I've gone back. The one with Paul, the week after Paulie clocked me with the phone, I came out with a jacket. I think that was my Citizen Kane. As far as a Smoky Mountain Wrestling promo, it was not the one you're talking, because that I remember that night and I've seen it since. And if you look, I was so uncomfortable that I couldn't. It was 125 degrees in there. And you see, not only am I sweating through my clothes, but also that was a point in time where I was trying to lose weight and my pants are falling off, right? And I look like a drowned rat, and I'm almost blown up.
That's what makes it work. That's one of the things that helps it work. You look manic.
And I probably hadn't slept in 2 days at that point because it was before TV. But also, I'm trying to think of what it was now, but I needed to get a statement out of Bob and he glossed over it and didn't say it the first time. And so I had to kind of go back and say something again that would lead him to realize he needed to do it again. I can't remember the particulars, but so it was a little bit longer than I wanted. But yes, I did like Scott was great when he came out and he took the mask off and he said, "You're right, I am Scott Armstrong. Dixie Dynamite is Scott Armstrong. And I didn't put this mask on because I was ashamed of my father, but because I love my father, who's a good and decent man."
Yeah, by the way, it's his best promo too.
Yes. And I didn't want anybody to say that he was favoring me because I was his son. I didn't want them to cast aspersions on his honor and integrity, whatever the fuck. So that's because I love my father. And, you know, the whole deal to finally get him to punch me for the first time so that I could want to get revenge. That boom. But the best promo I did on Smoky Mountain TV, in my opinion, was the one about the 4 faces of fear with poor old Dutch Mantell. We were in the gym of a high school in Eastern Kentucky in some small town. And that's all I remember. But it was coming up on Thanksgiving Thunder, where we would have the rock and roll in 4 different gimmick matches in 4 different towns, 4 different nights in a row. And we were running late on time, and I had to get that done. And we were publicizing. In other words, we weren't trying to kayfabe all these other towns that these matches were happening. We made it part of the fucking sales pitch. That's why they were all different rules every night. It was a Falls County Anywhere match in Hazard, Kentucky. It was what the cage was in Knoxville. The Smoky Mountain Street Fight was in Johnson City at Freedom Hall, and another one. So I had to do the promos and make all 4 of those matches, all 4 of the stipulations, dangerous, and then put it into context of, even if we lose 1, even if we lose 2, by the end of 4, you think you could possibly come out the winners on the last one. You'll see the 4 faces of fear, and it's going to be the heavenly body, blah, blah, blah. Well, the point is, it gets like 6 minutes or whatever in, and I've done this in one take, and I realize that I'm fucking straining. My nose is starting to bleed. And God damn it, I ain't going to blow this fucking thing. So as you can see it starting to trickle, but it looks like a shadow, kind of it, because, I mean, we're in one camera in a high school gym locker room with a fucking under a spotlight anyway. So it looks like a shadow under my nose. It's getting a little bit bigger. But then as I speak, I blow some of the blood off my lip on Dutch, and he looks down at, now his arm has a blood stain on it. And I got finished with the fucking promo and sat down right as it started running over by my mouth. So people have it on YouTube now as, watch, Jim Cornette has aneurysm during promo. But that was probably my favorite promo in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, at least that I remember. And there were a few that I really blistered the people in Eastern Kentucky just on local promos. But
what do you think your best moment on the mic in Mid-South is? And I say moment on the mic, not just promo, because there were also in-ring segments where you're on the mic. There were a variety of ways you were used.
Best, what is best? Let me clarify this. I sound like the ghost of Mr. Chicken. The best thing that I ever did on the mic in Mid-South was the confrontation with Watts, because that led to the most money Mid-South Wrestling ever made and the most money I ever made. But that was in March and April. By November, I was a lot better promo all the way around. I'd been doing television at a relentless pace and local promos out the ass for months and months and months as the featured top heel manager. So even the stuff going out was just, I was better. To the way I look at me, it's like, oh shit, I should have said that, or I should have did this, or I don't like the way that I didn't sound genuine to me, whatever. I would start critiquing myself more with that stuff. And then, like we've said and talked about, by the time I got to Dallas and I just had all the time in the world, especially on that Fort Worth show, to just goddamn talk, well, I got to where I said, well, fuck, I am the best in the business now.
Yeah, did any of the promos in Dallas actually stand out to you, or did you talk so much that it all blends together?
Oh, no, all the stuff with Sunshine when I was having a ball, when I said she'd been on more street corners than the Dallas Times-Herald, and her real name was Virginia. They called her Virgin for short, but not for long. I said, Sunshine, I would tell the people what kind of moral character you are, but I'm not allowed to say the word slut on television. And they would bleep slut. They didn't bleep it. They just edited it out. But I was getting away. I mean, Fort Worth TV was still the slowest, most boring 2 hours of fucking underneath preliminary wrestling with the top guys doing promos that you would ever see. And I was out there for 5 or 6 minutes saying shit that I can't believe that I was allowed to say on TV at that point in time. But I mean, they'd bleep some of it, but the station never complained.
With WWE, my first thought was to think of the early time when you were there, when you first got there.
Back in the before days.
You and Heenan, and then also...
long ago.
You and Heenan, and then also the thing where you and Yokozuna had the confrontation with Luger in the ring, and it was like red hot because Luger's sweating through his clothes, and you're sweating, everyone's sweating. But do you have a favorite WWE promo?
I think when I Vince's face when I called Shawn Michaels a fornicator, because I mean there was some good ones. Also, a lot of people like that SummerSlam. I think I did with Vader that one time, but just because I just tickled myself with it, and just because Michaels looked dumbfounded, and I think Vince secretly liked it, but he couldn't show it. But and it was a shitty angle that they were trying to do until Stu called in and complained by, Diana claiming to Davey that Michaels had hit on her and come on to her. But at least I got to call the fucking Heartbreak Kid a fornicator on USA Network.
The best thing is still Diana in her delivery of, Shawn, I know that you want me.
I swear to God, that was a half an hour argument. That was a half an hour argument.
Why? What do you mean?
And I love Diana, but she didn't know where it was going to go, and she didn't actually know why it was going to work. Because she had come in knowing the general idea of that the deal was that Diana is telling Davey that Shawn hit on her, and we're going to find out later on down the road it was a plot all along, and maybe we were just firing Davey up or whatever and trying to make Michaels look bad, but it hadn't got anywhere near there. But that night where we did that interview where I accused Michaels while he's standing there of trying to make this delicate flower of womanhood usurp her marital bonds and her vows of holy matrimony in some kind of disgusting, perverted way with you fornicate, blah, blah, blah. Diana had come in with the idea, that, okay, this is kind of vaguely what we're going to do. And she had a whole speech ready. And she said that because I was the producer also of the segment as well as being in it. So I had to go over it with everybody, right? And I said, Diana said, I'm going to say this and that. And Sean, you don't realize that blah, blah. I said, no. I said, Diana, just say this. Just say when Michaels, professes his innocence or whatever, he's totally taken aback by all this. And you step up, just say, Sean, you want me. But here's what I couldn't have been. And she's like, well, no, because like I'm cutting all her lines, right? This is her big dramatic part. What I couldn't say, especially right there in front of Davey Boy, it's his wife. I couldn't say, Diana, the reason why this is going to get so much heat with the viewers is because here's Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, and they know, whether they think wrestling's fake or not, they know that he's fucking everything. They've seen him with Pamela Anderson on the pay-per-view. I'm not saying they fucked, but he can have any woman in the world, right? And you are really possibly overstepping your fair evaluation to say that he would be lusting after you with your current, and you're a little older, and etc. I couldn't say that. But I said, Diana, I please promise you, if you just say that, because you're being really egotistical there, but if you just say, Sean, you want me, you'll get the fucking reaction. And she was kind of crestfallen, okay. And when she said that, the people, oh, fuck you. Boo, you fucking douchebag. That was... sometimes less is more, and people have to understand how they need to portray themselves based on how that they may appear to others instead of how they appear to themselves. Is that a fair assessment to say in some cases?
I think so, and I remember wrong. I thought it was, I know that you want me, and you're saying it was, you know that you want me, but that's what I remember. I remember that line.
Whatever I'm not even saying that, but yeah, Sean, you want me. That was the delivery. It stands out.
Though. I remember it though. If she had given a whole speech, it wouldn't have stood out as much.
Yes, it was just matter of fact. You have to admit to all these people that I'm the hottest thing you've ever seen. What an obnoxious bitch, right? And she did win a beauty contest up there in Calgary. In her younger days, I'm not trying to say that she's ready for the fucking glue factory.
Oh, come on. What?
Well, I'm trying to be careful here because I like Diana, but she wasn't the most beautiful girl, and she wasn't Donna Fargo. Oh, no, she was the happiest girl. Who was the most beautiful girl in the whole USA? No, that's the happiest girl. I don't know.
You guys should have done something where Sean wasn't into her, but it turned out Jose was.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Jose was married and had 17 children.
It's a work. Who cares?
Well, the kid's going to school because that's what Stu said. But, the kids are in school up here, and you got Diana acting like some kind of whore. They got to go to school and hear this from people. Everybody watches the TV. The hell is going on there with that stuff? Diana looking like a whore.
Well, of course, that TV went all over the world, and it's a different world now with TV and syndication, and more specifically streaming, and what's available where, and who's available, and what's going on, and what words are coming out of my mouth. Jim, ExpressVPN.
Loud noises rule the day here, ladies and gentlemen. And that's exactly what I was about to talk to you about when you talk about the worldwide situation with the streaming and the big tech companies and all of the things that they can do to you, ladies and gentlemen. Do you realize that not only these big tech companies, they're trying to jack you in a variety of financial ways, but they have flummoxed people apparently. Now, I don't do this, Brian, because I still think that the Bolivian government is trying to track me to this. I'm going to give that another 2 to 3 years to die down.
What?
But a lot of people have cell phones, the smartphones these days. And the smartphones have things called privacy settings, right? Where you can turn off the app tracking, whatever that may be. See, this is all these newfangled buzzwords that they the big tech companies have convinced you can't live without, when I do just fine without it. But apparently, even though you turn off the app tracking and fix your privacy settings, that's a bunch of bullshit. They still know where you are and what you're doing. It's all a lie. And they can snoop in on you. Prying eyes, they're watching you. They know your every move. And they know what you're doing on the internet. They got your data. You know that unlimited data you get? They got it. And they're going to do something with it. They're going to sell it to people. Just the other day, I saw that someone's data was sold to black marketeers in Taiwan, who then collected that entire family and put them on a fucking boat over there and made them work their way across the Pacific Ocean.
Where did you see this?
It was on the news.
What news?
Well, things people were talking about.
That's the name of the news?
That's the name of the news.
What channel's that on?
It's not really a channel. It's more of a neighborhood circular. But nevertheless, folks, if you want to avoid things like this happening to you, being shanghaied and forced to work in indentured servitude on pontoon boats or anything in between, go to the folks at ExpressVPN, because when you use the ExpressVPN app on your computer or your phone, you are hiding your address so that they can't come to your door anymore and knock on it and say, hey, get off that website. And the other websites can't use it to find out where you are at that point or what you're doing. So basically, right now, unless you're protected by ExpressVPN, they know when you're walking into a dildo store, because they got the GPS on you.
A dildo store?
And they say, well, that guy has walked into the Adam and Eve Pleasure Palace in Montclair, Wisconsin. And if you don't take that dildo home to your wife, they call your wife 2 days later and say, hey, how did you like that dildo that Harry bought you?
Well, first of all, none of this is true. There's
Well,
no
he didn't
dildo
give me any goddamn dildo. Well, he bought a dildo the other day because we got him tracked. See, now what they're going to do, and then they're going to start calling you and say, hey, Harry,
No.
unless you pay us a certain amount of money, we're going to call your wife and we're going to tell her that you bought dildos for somebody else.
No, this is
you
not
can imagine the trouble that you're going to get in without ExpressVPN.
You're not going to get into any of this trouble. This is not a dildo snitching kind of situation. I don't know why.
Well, that's with the big tech companies that feed your information to other people. They're going to sell your information to a guy that's going to be on the phone there, and he's going to call your wife and say, hey, so-and-so is buying toys for another woman, unless of course you pay the protection fee. But ExpressVPN will encrypt you.
Yeah.
To where when you walk into the dildo store, well, your wife, if she gets a phone call, is going to think that you walked into the latest the Target or Walmart or something to buy something for the family. And for a special extra small fee, they can tell your wife that every day you're walking into a flower shop and you just come home with a goddamn red rose for her.
This is not how any of this works. Just for the record.
ExpressVPN will reroute and encrypt 100% of your online activity, so your internet provider, your Wi-Fi administrator, your hackers, everybody's got hackers, none of them, and your wife can't see it. She'll think you're really in Bolivia. Or potentially the jungles of Switzerland. Do they have jungles up there?
Again, some people just want to watch programs that are not available in their country, like the Great British Sewing Bee, for instance.
Why do you keep talking about that program like somebody's going to watch sewing on television?
Suzanne's been trying to access that show forever.
Well, that's her fault.
She should use the promo code JCE.
Well, that's her fault too. But one ExpressVPN subscription covers up to 5 devices at the same time. One of your internet devices and 4 of the dildos that you bought over at the Adam and Eve Pleasure Palace, so you can protect your entire family. And right now, with big bad tech at your door knocking on, about to blow your house down, get the VPN that we all trust to protect our online piracy, or privacy, not online piracy. Well, they'll protect that too, because actually, if you wanted to do all kinds of nasty things if
Wherever you're going, whatever it is you're thinking, the answer is no. And
well, if you don't want people to know where you are you contributing to charity, or what are you hiding? What do you people have
maybe
to
people
hide?
are just private. Maybe some people just want to have privacy.
Well, if you've got something to hide, ladies and gentlemen, ExpressVPN will hide it. And they won't say boo to a goose about anything. Nobody will know what you've done. ExpressVPN.com/JCE, and you get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. So that's 15 months, which is a 15 package is even bigger than a 12 package. The average package is 6. But nevertheless, ExpressVPN.com/JCE to learn more and or just get your extra 3 months free when you get the 1-year package.
That's right. ExpressVPN.
Yes.
ExpressVPN.
I was hoping you'd agree with me.
I agree with some of
Just don't let people know what you're doing. And these people, I'm telling you, did I ever tell you about the day that I was almost on the 6 o'clock news walking into the dildo store?
No, I didn't know this is a place you frequented.
Well, it was just a random stop by, because I was in Connecticut. I was living in Connecticut, working for the WWE at the time, as they were known, the WWF.
I thought that was a punchline. It's a real story.
No, it's a real story. And so it was at the time where I was doing a third-party booking. We've talked about it, where if the guys weren't booked, the headbangers or whoever, they could work third-party promoters. And I was also doing Stone Colds and the big stars. They would do the autograph sessions at these big malls they had up there back then. I guess they still got them. And Austin was getting up to $25,000 to do 3 hours at a giant shopping mall and sign 1,000 autographs or whatever the fuck it was. But anyway, so I've got to go and have a meeting at a Chili's, and I wish I could remember the name of the road or the suburb of our area, Huntington, Connecticut. It was the next town over. I'm going to meet this guy that ran these spot shows and some of these autograph signings at the mall. And as I'm driving over there, you always got to leave early, because you never know with the traffic up there. So I realize I'm going to get there early and just sit there twiddling my thumbs for 20, 30 minutes. But shit, over here on the left-hand side is the dildo store, because they got a lot of local mom and pop type adult entertainment establishments up there. Not your like Adam and Eve national chains or whatever, or Hustler Hollywood, but the good local stuff. They appeal to the community.
I don't know too many people call it the dildo store, though.
Well, that's just a colloquialism, an adult bookshop. And I think, I stopped in there because I might take home a gift for my significant other of the time. And as I walk, I park, and there's no other cars in the parking lot. It's 4 o'clock on a weekday afternoon. Maybe people have not got off a certain shift yet and gone to buy their marital aids. So I park right near the door, and I walk in the front door. And as I'm walking into the little hallway there before you turn left, the guy behind the counter is right there. And there's a television right behind him that's mounted on the wall. So right as I walk past him, I said, "Hello, kind sir, dildo gentleman. How are you this fine dildo selling evening?" When I look up at that TV, I said, "Is that my fucking car? Is that my Kentucky license plate?" I never switched my goddamn car registration, no matter where I live. I asked the guy, I said, "Is that this business?" He said, "Yeah, the fucking live remote on the news is right across the street in that parking lot over there. They've been cutting in on us for the past hour, where they had just passed some kind of local law that they couldn't bother the dildo gentleman, or something was going on. But they had just, when I walked in and the door closed behind me, they had just cut in on the live cut in where they're doing, yes, we're across the street from Buford's dildo store where they just signed this law today. And I would have been on the live afternoon news in Connecticut, New York, for that matter, walking into the establishment. That doesn't happen all that often.
No. All right. Well, that was quite a story. And
well, who else do you know that can say that? That they were almost captured, commemorated for all of posterity on the afternoon news, walking into the dildo store, and with good intentions, trying to buy a gift for someone else.
I'll tell you a story. I think I may have told you years ago. The late Frank Idavia, who ran Jersey All Pro Wrestling years earlier.
I remember Frank.
Years earlier, he had been a wrestler around New York. Was it Lightning Lou Diamond? Not Lou Diamond. I forget exactly what his name was, but then he wrestled as Fatty Turnbuckle for a while. And then he started Jersey All Pro. But years earlier, there was an incident in Times Square where he went to a porno booth. And I guess he ran out of change and he tried to put his arm under to stop it from coming down. And it locked his arm in. Like he couldn't get it out. And they had to call the fire department to get the jaws of life to get him out of there. Amazing. Can you imagine getting stuck like that? Amazing.
Hey, at least it wasn't a glory hole.
I guess so, but this is the... Boy, I keep trying to come up with a way to get a better transition. We need something else.
Well, I'll tell you, here's another story while we're talking about it. So, Bradshaw, JBL, and Dutch Mantel, and I'm pretty sure it was Bob Holly, are in Germany. And for a tour, the WWF is running. This is the late 90s or, whatever point in time where they were all there together. And they go to the adult bookstore or whatever, and everything is in somewhat of a foreign language, as you would imagine. But the point is, they go in the peep show booths, and all of a sudden they hear, I want to say it was Holly. I'm pretty sure it was Bob Holly, about to puke and blah, 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 and he's out of that thing. What the fuck? They both got the regular booth, and he got the booth with the German Scheitze video. And had a bad reaction to that, so they had to keep moving on.
You have any other wrestlers in porno store stories?
Not that I can say here, but if you call the hotline, we can be uncensored there.
Well, Jim, our final story here this week.
Just make sure you're hooked up with ExpressVPN.
Our final story here this week. We'll try to get more questions next week. The Dynamite review was long because there's a lot happening. But I have an article here.
Because you bring out the worst in me.
I have an article here, Jim, from the New York Post by Ariel Zilber. Vince McMahon accuser Janelle Grant pauses sex trafficking lawsuit amid federal probe. A woman accusing former WWE boss Vince McMahon of sex trafficking and assault on Thursday agreed to pause her lawsuit at the request of the Justice Department as the feds conduct their own investigation. Janelle Grant alleged McMahon used her as a sex slave and defecated on her head in a bombshell. Stop.
When you hear those words, it's impossible not to. When you hear someone read those words that are being presented in a serious publication for, mainstream consumption, it sounds too fucking stupid.
I can't wait to hear his defense for it. In her bombshell lawsuit against the wrestling mogul and another executive, John Laurinaitis, that was filed in Connecticut federal court earlier this year. Ms. Grant has consented to a request by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York to stay her case against Mr. McMahon, WWE, and Mr. Laurinaitis, pursuant to a pending, non-public investigation. Ann Callis, an attorney for Grant, said in an emailed statement to the Post, "We will cooperate with all appropriate next steps." McMahon and Laurinaitis have denied the accusations. So let's stop here, Jim. The lawsuit, the bombshell lawsuit that we've been talking about for months now, is on pause at the request of the Justice Department. What do you think of this?
Well, and that don't sound good for Vince, because if they weren't serious about at least attempting to bring criminal charges against him, they wouldn't be asking private citizens to pause or delay a civil action that they have brought, that they have some reason to believe is going to make it or is valid. Point being, the way that I'm understanding it, with the burden of proof is lower in a civil case than in a criminal case. But at the same time, it's looked down upon if you just refuse to answer shit in a civil case and plead the Fifth Amendment or whatever. Oh, this fucking bullshit. The government doesn't want the civil case to go through discovery before the criminal case does, because they want they want first crack at asking him questions that he might not know that they know to ask. They don't want witnesses that they can, potentially use in something to have publicly, blown their load as far as here's what I know and here's all I know. That type of thing. They have a serious, they're not saying that this woman can't sue him at all, but they're saying don't fuck up our criminal prosecution, right? Don't fuck up our criminal prosecution. Let us try to put him in jail, and then you can try to take his money, is what it boils down to.
Well, it's interesting. I guess we don't know right now how they got to this point. I mean, she filed the lawsuit months ago. We heard that they were investigating him before that. The case isn't brand new. Why are they requesting this now?
I think they may have, because this is the only thing that Janelle Grant and her attorney care about is how Janelle Grant and her attorney were treated, right? The government has been investigating all of these non-disclosures, all of these deals, all of these activities with many other people. And one would think that that would take a little bit more time. Have they finally seen that, okay, we've got something together, but we need more time, and we don't want this particular case, blowing something for us. We don't know what it could potentially taint, because we don't know what they know. But apparently they know something, that they don't want this thing going any further because it's going to fuck up their deal, their case.
And remember, the last thing we had heard from the Vince McMahon side, which was then supported by Laurinaitis and WWE, was the push to get her into arbitration.
And that's on pause. It still could happen, but not until they say, or a pause of 6 months or whatever. But if the government didn't have something and intend to do something, then they wouldn't be saying, oh, stop your lawsuit. It's routine for them to say stop lawsuits, but only when they are actively investigating or gathering or preparing to charge somebody criminally. Not, oh, we don't see a thing, but you better hold on to that lawsuit till we finish, just in case.
Well, this is going to be interesting. And there's a lot of interesting things happening right now with the Puff Daddy case, which seemed to be a little reminiscent of some of the things in the Vince McMahon case.
Did Puffy ever catch up with Daddy Diddy?
No, it's one guy.
Which one was the itty bitty Diddy that grabbed the titty?
Well,
I know a girl that was one time president of the itty bitty titty committee.
Did you see the video of Diddy?
Of her itty bitty titties? I was the one that shot.
Will you be serious for a moment?
Look, I'm sorry.
Of Diddy with his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend in the hotel where they found the footage.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yes. What the fuck? I thought he had come around the corner and started beating up some maintenance man when I first saw it. I was like, what the fuck? This guy's out of his mind. What was the guy trying to change a filter or something? But it was his girlfriend with all of her shit and bags set around her trying to get on the elevator. How do these people think they're going to get away with this? Maybe for a little while, but not for a long while.
But he's also being charged with, or I guess they think he's going to be charged. I mean, there's no indictment yet. Sex trafficking is what they think the authorities are looking at.
Well, is that the way he fucking beating women up in hotels and fucking dragging them down the hallway himself? How does a goddamn multi-millionaire entrepreneur have time to do that? Personally, for fuck's sake, what the fuck is going on with these people?
Well, again, Vince McMahon sold his stock.
Here's another thing about Daddy Diddy there. Puffy Wuffy was a bear. If you're an international rap star and music mogul and purveyor of fine goods and got hundreds of millions of dollars, how miserable, horrible, rotten, annoying, fucking disreputable of a human being can you possibly be that a woman would rather take her bags and fucking go out in the street than spend a goddamn time in a hotel room with you? And then how much further rotten and miserable do you have to beat a woman up and drag her back? And you got $500 billion. What a piece of shit.
Well, we'll find out how much money he really has maybe as this all gets going, but obviously it wasn't the first time he did it to her.
Tiny dick syndrome. I bet his dick looks like sticking a drinking straw in a storm drain.
I don't know if Vince McMahon has tiny dick syndrome.
I wonder if he's had any kind of modifications done to that.
To his dick?
Well, think about it now. He's artificially pumped up and inflated his physique. He colored his hair. He added some type of material to that mustache. I can't believe it came out just like Ernie Kovac's. Could it be that maybe that's his other place of pride and joy? Has he had any augmentation work done or anything on old Doc Johnson there?
I think it's a question only you're asking. My question is, will they allow him to turn himself in, or are they going to bust him on camera?
Oh,
Give him the perp walk.
I think they're going to give him the opportunity to come on downtown. He'll stop by Pittsburgh and try to drag Jerry McDevitt out of his deathbed probably at that point to get him down there. Poor old retired fella. But only if he tries to exercise the thing that I'm still maintaining, the private island option. He's got $2 billion at a fucking airplane. Catch me if you can. Catch me if you can. I think that'll be the way it is.
Well, we shall see. I apologize for any noise in the background. Gardener's next door.
Oh, God damn it. Hey, you know what? And by the way, you don't even know this. You're ignorant to this fact, motherfucker.
Let's hear this, Dave Clark.
The big goddamn windstorm that we had the other day, I've had the house 2 doors over from me on the other side of my next door neighbor. So his house was in the way, and I didn't think to walk around and look. What had to have been 100-year-old maple tree, giant trunk that 3 grown people couldn't reach around, turned over and went in between 2 houses. That's how tall it was, without hitting either one, but it went in. But the root system that turned up over out of the ground was 15 feet tall as it's laying on its side there. It's incredible. The power of Mother Nature. What a bitch.
Yeah, you're right. I was ignorant to all that. But Jim, whether you're Vince McMahon or you're Puff Daddy, you're probably screwed right now. You may be screwed. And even great attorneys wouldn't represent you. But if you're a good person, we know the man you can call.
Well, what about if a tree falls on your house and it's somebody else's tree and you want to sue the shit out of them to fix your house? Well, in that case, you call this guy.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. He'll sue the rest.
And you know, a big thing with Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. A big thing with Stephen P. New is accountability. As he always says, he will give every man one chance to do the right thing. And then if he don't, he's going to make that miserable son of a bitch sorry he was ever born, sorry that he ever exited his mother's birth canal. And the thing about Stephen, if there's negligence involved, if somebody should have known better, let me tell you, all you people out there in Oklahoma and Iowa that have been having the bad weather down in Texas, even up here in Kentucky, if your next door neighbors have been so negligent that they've left their maple trees and their oak trees and their chestnut trees right out there in the yard when they know a big storm is coming and that has fallen on your house and crushed you in some kind of fashion, whether it be you or your loved ones that was fallen upon, it's all your neighbor's fault. He should have taken his trees inside before the bad weather hit. So therefore, call Stephen P. New at 877-50-STEVE, and he'll bring the hammer of justice down on these irresponsible, negligent neighbors. Of course, you'll have to move, because after that, people will be coming after you with torches and pitchforks, but still, get paid with Stephen P. New.
That's right, Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE. And Jim, with that, we're going to wrap things up. Songs next week, guest the program next week.
You keep saying that, and Uncle Dave keeps giving stars to things.
Well, we will have more stars on the experience.
More stars than there are in the heavens.
Wherever you find your favorite podcast, and of course next week here on the Drive Thru, he's on Twitter. They don't even call it Twitter anymore. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, patreon.com/Cornette to get the archive going back to the beginning. Listen to the wrestling news each and every day, thewrestlingnews.com, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!